Maria.
For the fashion or the place?
Secretary.
California, probably $2.
Thank you.
Okay, did I give you one more? Excuse me. I'm sorry, excuse me, please. Can I get one, please? I gave, it's okay.
What happened to the water thing?
Anybody?
Oh, they probably got rid of it.
Why? Why, this is
But-
still
Don't have a
waste?
cooler anymore, right?
Why you don't have a
We're actually not
cooler?
getting ready to talk about that, so.
Why you don't have a cooler?
Because the procurement system for the city is not good, so trying to get a vendor and actually do passport is like
Yeah.
nearly impossible.
Yeah.
Not just this agency, other community boards and other agencies, passport does not work. So if you
Yeah.
wanna encourage the city to get rid of that, that'd be great. That's why we don't have a water cooler, that's why we went to the
But
bottles.
didn't we have a water cooler before?
Yes, and they were, I don't know what that situation was, they moved it, everything to passport, now you gotta get it from passport. No one can use passport, so that's why we don't use it.
Okay.
Cause this is such, this is
It's
so
so
wasteful.
wasteful.
It's an environmental hazard.
Probably get bigger
Good to your
ones.
vendors in the city.
It's so
But it's
wasteful.
like glitchy. They updated it and ever since they updated it, it doesn't work right anymore.
Mm.
Yeah.
You can have mine because I have tons of them.
But he's bringing some.
Okay.
Getting big.
Can I have my water bottle?
Ah. Hi, Lisa.
Dante,
Are we, either two,
we're on? Madam Secretary, prepared? Okay, we are now calling this meeting into order. We are gaveling in 7:13 p.m. I want to thank everyone for coming to the first executive committee meeting for 2025. Looking back at the last few months, I want to say thank you for the service. I want to say that CB9 is strong and getting stronger. We're going to continue to try and do the work, and we're going to continue to try and find ways to be effective and productive and make sure that we're advocating for the community. So I thank everyone now, and we're going to start that for this evening. Okay, and we're just going to move right on to the agenda. So we're going to go into item 2. This is going to be the committee chair check-in. I'll just ask for.
When is the public period? So that I can
There
speak?
is no public period.
So when will I be able to speak?
After we go through the reports, I will give you an opportunity to ask your questions or speak. Okay? Okay, so we're gonna go to committee chair check-ins. In no particular order. Ms. Timothy, your report for Margaret
Okay.
Protection.
Yeah, good evening. So we had our meeting on January 16th, and last Thursday. And we are still trying to figure out or wrap our heads around the whole containerization project with DSNY, because, you know, there's a lot of questions, and I think that we actually came to an agreement that it would be best if DSNY come and present to the full board. So we're hoping that that can happen sooner than later, as this program is, you know, kind of, you know, still, I would say at a standstill, because, you know, there are things that we're hearing, it's like, you know, people are being summoned, and, you know, it's like the dates doesn't reflect the whole program. So I think that if they can come out and present and answer some of the questions that, you know, people may have about it, it would be good to do that. And also we are trying to do a paint recycling project. We talked about it last week, which is, you know, there's this organization called paint.org, and what they do is they recycle paint. So, you know, you can collect the paint cans from your neighbors and anyone that would wanna be, you know, interested in doing that, and, figure out how we're gonna deliver them to this, organization. So that's the, beginning phase, so hopefully we'll have more information on that as we, talk about it at the next meeting. And, this is all I have for right now. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your report.
Mhm.
Questions from the members of the exec? Any questions for the chair?
I have one. What was their attitude towards coming to the full board to present? What was their attitude towards coming to the full board to present? Do you know?
That,
They haven't responded yet to the request.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
okay,
you
so
placed a
you send
request.
something to DSM?
Yeah.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
thank
You
you.
requested for them to come to the board and do a presentation.
So
yeah.
we're
Or a
waiting,
board
yeah.
and or your next committee meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
Right. And I asked that because they usually have no issue coming to committee meetings, but they seem to be a little bit more resistant to come to full board, so I wanted to see if that.
but
Say no
I
twice.
would, yeah, I would hope that they would come out, because I mean, it's important that they come out to the full board and, you know, do a presentation. You know, I don't,
Were they open to the idea of deferring the imposing of fines until we get a clear picture of what's going on?
well, the letter that you sent out, what, did you get any,
No
response?
response yet.
Okay, so is it possible that we can follow up? I mean, I don't know who the response is coming from, who did the letter go to?
I send everything to community affairs.
Okay, so. There you go.
Dante, if I could ask
Let's
if
see
you could
what
resend that to community affairs, but also let's send it to the commissioner.
I would, exactly.
Let's send it
That's
to the
what I was
commissioner as
about to
well.
say.
And let me just ask this, and I would probably just add, you know, the only problem with having it presentation to the full board is that it's probably gonna take more time than we should do there at the board. So I would almost think if we can get a commitment for them to come discuss it, make that a standalone project where we can have them come and present to the community. So we can either do a Zoom or a town hall, but there might be a lot of questions and they might need to,
Exactly.
it might be more
There's a
helpful
lot
for
of
them to come
questions.
and present, yeah.
So, I mean, we just have to make the time to do that.
So, who was the person who came last time?
Was that Mr. Witherspoon? Witherman? Something?
And he's, no, I saw it on Zoom, but I couldn't, he did the whole thing.
Yeah, he came, but, you know, he's more, how do you wanna say, the,
Representative of the
representative, well, yeah,
He's assistant director.
so, you know, he, I guess there's only so much information that he has to provide, so.
Any other questions from the exec? Alright, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Okay, if we could have a report from Economic Development.
Sure. So you guys know that we came out with the Shop Small Guide. So basically we reviewed it and sort of figured out what our next steps were gonna be for phase 2 for that, which we're not gonna do until probably next fall. But in the meantime, we asked Dante to print us some flyers and stuff that we could put around. And we felt like we needed a map that kind of like if you went over Flatbush, there'd be like a map of the district. If you like held your cursor, say, over Flatbush, then Flatbush would like light up. And then Nostrand, same situation. We felt like that might be like a good way to use a map, although we had no idea how to do that, but maybe Ethan could help us since he volunteered last time about the map. And then we are going to do 2 events, a happy hour and a scavenger hunt. for business owners, and then the happy hours for business owners to like mingle and hang out. And the scavenger hunt, which is gonna be like at the middle to end of May, is we basically want as many people to go in as many businesses as possible. So we're sending out a email, letter, sort of survey to see what businesses want to be involved. The only way you can win is if you go across the district.
Mhm.
So you have to go like on different corridors to do different things. And we think that, or we hope that the business owners might want to donate like $5 or $10 each, because we feel like a monetary prize will inspire people more to do the project. So we don't know the details yet, but we do know that we want it to be something where they have to definitely go across corridors, and we want it to not just be one winner, but possibly like a few winners, and we want it to be like 2 weeks long. So we're working out the rest of the details kind of when we gauge the business owner interest, we'll move from there. And we have like businesses that we want to target to get involved. Yeah, that's where we're at. And then the happy hour we were thinking would be March 20th at the Nostra Inn. That was the 20.
Nostra.
We were just gonna confirm with Nostra Inn that that was possible, and then move from there.
Okay. Alright, that's,
Oh, I was just thinking out loud that maybe like, you said it would span out for like 2 weeks?
Yeah,
Cause I was thinking maybe like, Brooklyn Restaurant Weeks, something.
to go with it. Well, we were
Where?
thinking if it went
Keep
the
it-
end of May to the beginning of June, then at our first meeting in June, we would be able to like go over all the entries, so to speak. Like maybe it would be a bingo card format or something like that, and then we would, you know, at our meeting live, like go over the results. And that way we could like wrap it up at our June meeting. So I don't know when New York Restaurant Week is, but I feel like it's February, and it's like coming up.
I don't think it's such a late, a
Yeah,
cold
but
month.
even if it's just, you know,
We call it something close to.
close to right, but.
Oh, call it something like that?
Yeah,
Not like restaurant week, but
not
have like a restaurant week, but have it a district week or something.
district, yeah, like a community for, community or district 40, whatever, restaurant.
or even if it's something like, I know other communities, like for bars, they've done bar crawls.
Mhm.
But if it's something similar where it's like this, you know,
Where it's not just bars.
Yeah, it's a
Just
sample.
different businesses.
Yeah.
like, you know, the BK9 sample or something like that. Just
Yeah.
throw out something there, you know. We
So
just
you have a
have to
variety, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good,
Yes, that's the idea.
not just
Yeah.
business, not just eateries, but maybe,
Just to patronize.
General-
Yeah, I mean, we want all kinds of businesses to be
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it doesn't, like, library, maybe, like, if you go to the library, like, we were thinking instead of the middle space that we do a bingo card, that it could be like, go to a community board meeting. Like,
Mhm.
that's,
Yes.
instead of being a free space, like, that's your free space.
Center Square, it should be Center Square.
Exactly, yeah,
Oh, okay.
that's what we were thinking. So,
Can't win this one.
yes, can't win unless you go to a community board meeting.
Yep.
I mean, it could be any community
Make
board meeting, like a committee meeting, or, anyway, that was some of the ideas, but yes,
Sounds good.
totally.
I think when we start doing plans like that, I think we hit a good point where, like, you know, different press outlets would like to take part in that, because they're always looking for things like that to kind of be put out. And I think that would be a good way to kind of intersect between the community board and like different publications and stuff like that. Especially since we, you know, have a lot of spots that have already been outlined in big publications recently, like Time Out, for example, and a few others. So yeah.
And just as a plug, this is the reason why, part of the reason why I wanna make sure that we're, you know, as you're getting into that planning stage and you're getting these things, the logistics together,
Yeah.
let's check in with Dante and let's make sure you fill out that, the event
Oh,
form.
yeah, okay.
Because that'll help us kind of get these things together and we can put the logistics together about, okay, well, listen, if there's any money we need to put, forward, if there's things like media contacts, things like that, we can talk about that and discuss. No, a lot of fantastic ideas, I love it. Any questions from the executive committee? Okay, hearing none, thank you very much for your report. All right, education, library, youth services, you want to do joint or you want your own space?
She's a,
Yeah, she just passed that on.
But you gotta take notes.
Hi, yes, so Query, the education and library chair, and my partner in crime is Linda Lord Watson, the youth services committee. So basically, right now, just to let people know, we had a holiday potluck dinner, which was also a meet and greet with politicians, and this was at PS 375 on December 11th with Assemblywoman Farrah Sofer Forrest and Councilwoman Rita Joseph attended, and parents and kids came. It was great. We had more than 100 people there, and it was just wonderful night, wonderful experience, and everybody enjoyed themselves and had, personal time with their local politicians to talk about whatever they needed, as well as break bread together. Our next event is going to be the Career Day, which is for the young adults and youth. We're trying to make sure we set it up early for like SYEP and various other workforce development services with the various communities. So we're in the process of working on that. And this is really to reach out to like 16 to 18-year-old, 14 to 18-year-olds and 18 to 21-year-olds. So we're still working on that. We've been reaching out to principals, various community organizations, and of course with the help of CB9, and that should be on March 15th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. So basically 10 to 5 because it's like set up and then break down. And then, hoping that it will be passed and voted on at the next general board meeting. Additionally, we are then, after that, we're going to be working on an education town hall, which should be April 5th. And we want to invite various educators to the plate, as well as various people who work with and within the education system for parents and for students, as well as anybody who has like influence and parents who want to be able to express their concerns and needs and things like that. So we're working on that for April 5th. We want to do for May, we want to do a community cleanup, and we want to do a family fun day the week before the end of the year event that we have with CB9. So we want to do like a family fun day, just to have families come out and enjoy each other. We want to do like competitions between parents and their kids. We want to do like a pajama day and make them run around in pajamas and play with kids and have fun and do hopscotch and all the things we used to do when we were little. So it's just something to bring the community together and to enjoy ourselves.
Looking forward to
And that's, whatever that we're trying to get, whenever the date for the, what is our option called? I'm blanking out.
Our Timothy Fair.
Thank you. We wanted to just make sure it's the week before, so that's what our plan is.
All right, like family fun day, teaches kids to catch an L, that's what it is.
That's right.
All right, no, thank you very much for that. All right, so I know that we had the one action item, actually, we don't need to do that because we approved the event at the last exec. It just has to go before the board.
Okay, yes, that's
So,
what I'm waiting for.
Yeah, that item will carry over because as we weren't able to have the meeting, that's a voting item, that's gonna carry over, so it's taken, but it'll be carried over to next week.
Yep.
The next meeting next week.
Yes.
All right, no, a lot of great things.
We'll be honest. You mentioned where we keep it, right?
Say that again?
Where we are going to keep it at the school? I wasn't sure it was right here, so I wasn't miss this.
But that information
We've already sent out to the school and everything.
Okay, yeah.
That's
And I believe we reached out.
You're talking about for the youth, the job and
Career
internship?
day.
Yeah, Clara Barton.
Clara Barton.
Yeah.
Right, and that permit's been requested, correct? Okay, all right, so I think we're
That
good.
already went out, yeah.
All right. library work going on. Thank you very much for that. Any questions from the members of the exec? I'll get you in a second, just the exec. Any questions from the exec? Okay.
So I don't have a question, but in terms of the schools, are you guys in contact with like the principals?
Yeah, that's what
We've already got the
started,
Okay,
yeah,
because-
we started put,
Yeah.
Right, because it's important that you inform them about
yeah.
capital projects for schools so that they can put their proposals together. I don't know if they write them themselves or they have someone that would do it for them so that, you know, they stand a chance of getting funding for whatever outstanding projects they may have, whether it's a cafeteria or auditorium. I mean, there's funding, you
Yeah,
know.
but that's not what we're working on, we're just doing a youth and, young adult job internship fair.
No, I was just saying,
Oh.
putting that out there so that you guys can
Oh,
share
I
that
see, oh, you mean
information.
for like the
so
town
that
hall and
you-
stuff like that?
Well, yeah, because,
Okay.
I mean, it's important that they know the dates, the deadlines for all these things, so that they
Well,
can
and that's the
submit.
other thing is, you know, traditionally, we've been hit or miss with that, but part of the thing that the education library has done is also been in contact with the schools to the point where it's like, especially if there are capital or expense requests, things that they're trying to get as a board, whenever we've done our needs request, we've submitted that.
Yeah.
Say PS 161 needs this, and
Yeah.
wherever as college prep needs this, you know, and so on and so forth, just to make sure we can support the schools as well. So if we can do that outreach,
Yeah,
Maybe a round table next fall
Yeah,
or something.
We got more.
Just bring in the districts.
well, let me ask this, timing wise, are we out of schedule with that, or is that something? we
No,
decided on?
but, you know, it's for the committee you put together, and they just went through a hefty list, so, you know.
Yeah.
They wanna do it, we're at.
Alright. Well, let's go back and see.
but I've seen, you know, where some Manhattan community boards have written up proposals for schools within those communities, so, you know, these are some of the things that probably we need to look into as well. Yeah.
So thank you very much for that.
Quick question, if not Clara Barton, did you guys have like a rain location?
Barton's inside of it?
Yeah,
No, but
but
it
just in
doesn't
case,
come
cause
through.
like, I've gotten, oh, we have to have staff, if they don't have budget for staff,
I
the staff
think
is.
the
Or
back
alternate
way should be
location.
Prospect, it's right across the street.
Alright, just wanna make sure.
You wouldn't have to have staff
Prospect Heights.
for both of them?
No, he's saying
No, just
as a
in case if
backup.
Clara Barton's like, oh, we can't do it because our staff doesn't stay past 6:30 or whatever time, I don't know.
Well, I'm about to talk to Dr. Foreman probably tomorrow anyway, so I'll just like bring it up to him.
Please
He's
do.
pretty
Yeah,
good
yeah.
and
Yeah.
he's supportive, so I think he'll be fine.
I just like to be prepared,
Yeah. But if
Yeah.
we have to have a backup, I think just Prospect Heights.
understood.
All right, any other questions?
No.
Transportation.
Yep. So we did some discussions in our last meeting, and a few things. We're making some changes so the surveys are easier to analyze. We'll just be making sure that people see essentially different questions, or at least a different set of questions based on where they live, whether they live here or whether they live outside of the district. Because as it was the last survey, somebody would have to go in, turn the results into a spreadsheet, and sort of filter out those results to see what the answers were based on where people live. So we're gonna make a change so that people get routed to entirely different questions. They might not be worded differently, but they'll just be a different question set, so that folks who answered the certain set of questions would be only the folks who live here, and those who don't will answer a different set, etc. So we can sort of just have the answers pre-filtered so that it's easier for everyone to analyze and see based on who lived where, or whatever other parameters we decide to include in the next surveys, whether it's commuting or that kind of thing.
Good idea.
Yeah. On the Washington Avenue front, from what I understand, we're looking to get a joint letter drafted between CV9 and Botanic Garden and other stakeholders in the area to just add some gravity to how important that is. That should be done soon, if not, if not already, maybe Dante can help draft it, and we can get that as soon as possible. And for the Washington Avenue traffic coming out, we discussed it last time too, but we still intend to expand that to more of a district-wide traffic calming plan, you know, for DOT, so they have a bit more on their plate that they want to respond to. And so it isn't just, you know, one segment on one street, but it's more of an overall vision for the district. And that's going to be based on historic feedback and a map full of suggestions from public and stuff like that. So if you want to continue having changes sort of built from the ground up in the community board so that, you know, agencies know what to do and how to get this stuff done right the first time. But that's going to be where the Washington Avenue traffic calming request goes. It'll just expand out to the full district. And we'll work on getting that done for DOT and anybody else who needs to, you know, build here.
What are you trying to do on Washington Avenue?
But we'll hold on.
We're trying to get crosswalks.
What?
We're trying to get crosswalks. And maybe a stop sign. There's a long stretch of that street where people speed and people often like get hit. Police is there.
They do get hit.
So it would be good to have a bit more safety infrastructure so that it's not just rolling the dice when you cross the street.
So it's on Montgomery Street, and there is no demarcation of any sort for us to cross over. It's only going towards, diagonally, okay. So vertically, okay. Going across to Botanical Gardens, there is no crosswalk, even though there is a step down to cross over on both sides, but they never did it. So that's the area in which everyone gets hit and even killed. 2 people got killed. So we're really emphasizing that we need that to be taken care of like yesterday. But instead, they took care of it in their way, DOT, by putting a speed camera by Sullivan Place instead of closer or, you know, to the area of Montgomery. So here we are with all of the accidents right there by Montgomery and Washington. And who's also getting hit the most are the employees from the garden. And also, you know, when we have parties and things, we have to have traffic, you know, directed so that no one gets hit.
So crosswalks would be useful there, maybe a stop sign so that there's a long stretch that people speed on so people can stop or at least have something that they stop for around Montgomery. And the idea around expanding it to a district-wide traffic calming plan comes from a lot of what we've heard from the public at the last fair and the answers to different surveys, including the one that Rabbi Berman ran last year, where we're seeing people ask for things that typically might not be in DOT requests. So one of the things people ask for a lot is, you know, raised crosswalks. That was one of the most requested things in the survey, but not to DOT directly, from what I've seen in their logs. So I think taking all this information into consideration, we can kind of use DOT's toolbox and sort of actually put a plan out that takes into consideration what was rejected in the past and what could potentially go in and make things safer for everybody. So yeah, just combining everything we have on our plate from, you know, the logs, the toolkit we have online that DOT publishes, and the things that we know are wrong with the area that should be fixed.
So the Botanical Garden is looking for this manager. So he says if you can give me something as well, you know, that they can put together to give to DOT, this is what they were looking for.
How far are we from, actually, questions from, I'm sorry, you completed your,
Not yet. One more thing. So Lincoln Road is the other item we were looking at, and we've heard a lot of a combination of complaints and ideas for Lincoln Road. People feel that the section of Lincoln Road from Ocean to Flatbush is a bit congested because you have it's a narrow 2-way street, you have loading on both sides for businesses, you have buses coming in, and you have 2-way traffic. And we're hearing some ideas. Some people on the committee had ideas to convert it to a one-way and use the space better so that there would be loading zones for businesses that are separate from the travel and the bus lane. And a configuration like that might actually help the area get some parking back because it wouldn't be as densely used, and the flow might actually improve. But we also voted to have a survey go out to at least assess the level of the problem. Because if people don't see an issue, well then, I don't see an issue, reconfiguring anything. But if the issue is what we so far see it to be, then yeah. Well,
That's a bus depot there as well.
yeah.
So you want to sit there and convert it to a one-way, so where would the other way go? They would have to go all the way around
Yeah.
Ocean Avenue?
The buses only go one way.
No, the other way.
The other way.
Yeah, all the way
That you
around.
plan on going stopping. That doesn't even make any sense, and there's no problem there. Is there a problem there in that
That's what the survey's for.
Is there a problem there?
Congestion.
Congestion? Well, yes, because you got
Okay,
everything
Ms. Boyd,
flowing
Ms. Boyd,
there.
Okay, Ms. Boyd.
Of course you're gonna have
All right,
congestion,
Ms.
because you have nothing else over here.
Okay,
This is the last stop. So of course you're gonna have, so now you wanna stop that from happening, and now you wanna change it and bring it all the way to Ocean Avenue.
That's-
And don't you think there's gonna be congestion there then? What are you doing? You're moving congestion from one place to another place?
Ms. Boyd, your points are taken, but this is what I believe they're trying to figure out is the survey to really kind of gauge that.
Well, I haven't seen the survey, and I live right around the corner, so
Because they haven't done it yet.
where's the
They
survey?
haven't done it yet. This is what
Yeah,
he's saying.
right.
It's something that.
Because I've been hearing
I mean,
about this
absolutely.
one way
No,
for
it's
the
okay.
last
No,
6
it's
months
okay,
for
it's
a
okay.
year,
All right.
and I haven't seen anything coming to the
Okay, Ms.
community.
Boyd, thank you very much. These are definitely, I mean, this is the purpose of this. These are the conversations that are happening in the committee, so absolutely you are invited.
Conversations, you don't even wanna have a conversation.
And
Me,
they-
I'm
thank you,
asking
Ms.
a
Boyd.
question.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So a
yeah.
conversation
Thank
is,
you, Ms.
we
Boyd.
go back and
No,
forth on the
Straightforward
public.
answers
This-
for that.
we don't need to do that. This is not a conversation. This is the conversation happens in committee. So
Yeah,
that's
but
the reason why.
if I'm gonna build any trust here, I'd like to at least answer a
Understood.
couple of things so that,
I'm saying
I
this.
don't seem like I'm trying to escape the question.
It's not escaping the question. It's
Yeah,
an
but you can
executive
sit there
committee
and ask,
meeting.
you
It's
can
been
answer everybody
reported.
else's question, but the
It's
public
been-
comes and asks us a question, you
And
can't
thank
answer
you,
the
Ms.
question.
Boyd. Ms. Boyd.
No, it's not thank you.
No, it is.
Because
It
you're
is.
talking about having a
It
conversation,
is.
but the
And
conversation
Ms. Boyd,
removes the
you
public
have
out
not
of the
been
conversation.
recognized. We didn't read, but the rules of conduct apply here as well. You are recognized by the chair.
Oh, okay, well then,
We are
right,
currently
and
in
that's how
order.
you, that's how you
And we are
remove the
currently in
public
order.
from the conversation,
And we
is
are
because you
currently
don't
in
order.
recognize us.
All right, Ethan, I'm sorry, so Lincoln Road, so you said this survey you're going to do for that as well?
Yeah, the survey is almost completed.
Okay.
It's almost it's almost done being built.
Okay.
It'll be going out later, probably either later in January or in February. But yeah, it will go out soon, and we'll get feedback from folks who pass through, folks who live here, etc.
If it's possible, if the exec and the district manager can see it as well, just so we can see the content of what's being asked.
Yeah.
Actually, I do have a question about that as well, but let's go to the exec. Are there any questions? Well, I'm sorry,
Right.
this is the third time I'm doing that to you. Are you completed with your report?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Are there any questions from the exec? Go ahead.
One point question. We're not gonna be able to verify whether or not somebody is responding to the service, whether or not they really live in the community or whether they.
No, not even DOT does that. So no.
Okay, so it's based on the honor system.
Yeah. No surveys about transportation that go out in the city do that.
Any other questions? All right, I do have a couple. So with respect to that, so understanding that this changes, what's the difference in the questions that you would ask somebody who lives in the community versus somebody who's outside?
They wouldn't be different. It's mainly from an analytical point of view, so you wouldn't have to ask someone to go in and parse through it and filter it down. You could just see the questions, and you'd see like section 1 would be for residents, and you'll see the split of how they answer, yes, no, maybe, etc. You'll see those answers are all from residents. Section 2, which residents will not get, will be for non-residents, and they'll answer those, and you'll be able to see the difference in results based on those, on that cohort of people. Section 3, pass-through commute, etc.
So if you click the button, it's like then you see the survey.
Yeah.
Oh, it's an email, it's an online survey.
Yeah.
All right.
In addition to that, we're speaking on Lincoln, yes? I have reached out to the community, okay, the businesses, because my concern is for the businesses, okay? And they too want to come out and they want to talk about this. I thought that would be the best way to actually literally go there. And so they have concerns of their own, so I don't want to voice what they are, they have to do that, okay? So you may see them at the general meeting or you may see them at the transportation, okay? Because we discussed that it was best to speak to them.
Of course.
Okay.
In regards to Lincoln Road, right?
Yeah.
All right. I have a couple more questions and then we can open back up if anything spurred from that. All right, so for Washington Avenue, so my understanding is, so you're talking about, for the sake of the traffic calming.
Yeah.
So you're saying you were requesting a study on there for the traffic calming, but you want to expand, the idea is to expand that district-wide?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a study we're requesting, like, the committee has had like a draft of an answer for this that we're asking DOT to like talk about, so we can, you know, see what's doable, what's not doable, what makes the most sense. But we're pretty clear what we're asking for. And yeah, the idea, if that doesn't get responded to, we're not gonna just sit still, we're gonna see where else needs this kind of treatment, and then, you know, build that out. So if they do respond to when, they'll have like a complete, you know, array.
If I could only ask if you can get that copy to the exec as well, just so that we, you know, just from the you know, from the oversight perspective, we just wanna know what questions are being asked.
Yeah.
And in case we have any questions, or wanna be able to add to that as well. All right, so along those lines, and just as a thought, I mean, I definitely like the idea of going on a district-wide basis, because I like to look at things holistically. But I also want to put out where it's like, if we think about, if you can get Washington Avenue right, then you probably get a good idea of what you should be doing in other places. If we can say, well, listen, Washington Avenue might be the same thing as pick another two-way street in the district, and pick another two-way street in the district. So we're just replicating that a couple of times, and it's less work. I get nervous by asking DOT to do a district-wide survey, because then all of a sudden we'll be here 5 years later talking about, well,
That's why
it's still being worked on.
That's why I'm not asking them to do it.
Right.
Like, we can probably get the same efficiency, if not more, by doing it ourselves, and then kind of giving them the results and saying, here's what we think, you know, what do you think about that?
So, but yeah, but I like the idea of it, or at least I want to give the thought of an iterative approach. Let's get Washington right.
Please.
Get Washington right, I think we kind of have a very good idea of, it makes your process a lot easier
Please.
for the next 2 or 3 streets, where it's like, no, Washington worked. Washington worked, 3 or 4 more streets this way, and then you figure out what the next corridors are. But I think it's a faster way to, you know, to kind of get those done.
Save
Not
lives.
to add to that, I noticed that there is a current street street design project going on right now for Washington Avenue. About $30 million are released, I think, to the Department of Design and Construction to build something on Washington Avenue pretty recently. I mean, it's been a spot that.
I mean,
Go ahead, I told you about it.
yes, you told me about it. When I looked at it, I was like, excuse me? What are you doing here? What kind of project are we looking at? What are they working on? Where's the money going? For what? That was never broken down or explained.
And let's do this. Dante, we can reach out to them. This is something that they've been talking about. Whisper One Wing's a legend, and they disappeared, and all of a sudden I'm trying to make something a reality.
It seems
No, not US. EDC, so that's a little different.
Okay.
They're
But we should figure out who we need to
Yeah,
reach out to,
yeah.
because I think that's the whole project where they're talking about Washington Square Classic.
Yeah, they're
So yeah, we need to get that
Sounds
sounds
like
before they start.
DOT gave them something to design.
So
Yes,
let's-
exactly, that's
Yes.
what it sounds like.
So
And-
let's look at that.
And what I looked at, it seems to me, it's like, you know, that they're using Washington Avenue, you know, as a vehicle to do whatever they're doing over here, you know, or using that money to say they're doing this here on Washington Avenue, but in reality, they're doing something over here, okay?
Well-
That's just what it looks like to
Well,
me.
here's the thing, we've seen this show. They did this on Empire Boulevard, and I think they're trying to do this here, where it's like, okay, they're trying to close the slip road and get enough things committed to and enough money going down the pipe where it's like, oh, it's too late to do something now. So before they start spending a whole lot of money, or, you know, committing all this money, let's say, no, this is a conversation that we haven't finished.
Correct.
So
So-
let's reach out to DOT and DDC. Let's make sure they're in a room and say, no, we need to explain this, and we have to have that conversation. Because,
Yeah,
we've
so in
seen
other
this.
words, it looks like they fall in the back of what, you know, what I'm asking them to do initially. So they're gonna fall like, okay, because they have something that they need to have done, let's fall on the back of that and use Washington Avenue, you know, to do this.
It looks like they have something sort of planned for Montgomery
That's
as
all
well, on
I
the
see.
side. And this is the street,
They're always doing something. So no, we definitely need to have that meeting. All right, and the last piece I had, this will be my last question. So with regards to Lincoln Road, I think the survey is a good idea, just kind of get a sense of what are people looking at. While simultaneously parallel to that, it's probably a good idea for us to have DOT give us what the traffic data patterns are for that. I think for the most part, we can all speak to with field of congestion and all the other things, but it might be good to at least study what's the traffic patterns currently on Lincoln, and I guess even on Ocean and Flatbush either as well, but as part of approaching that. Because that'll kind of help us tell. I mean, listen, it's a bus depot, so we know that that's one thing. Double parking cars, that's another thing. They just recently put loading zone over there too, didn't they?
The loading zone is on the corner going towards inside the park in that direction, on that corner.
Right,
You
but
can't put it in between because you have the restaurants, and then you have the market, and then you have the new building, then you have, MTA, then you have a store right there, then you have that corner.
Right. And just because you said that, there's so many things going on there, I think we need to get some more data on that one, so that way the committee can actually look at that.
That's just on one side. I didn't mention the side where the, owner of the bicycle, works, that shop there.
There's a lot.
Let me correct
Yes.
one thing, I think I misspoke about the budget, it wasn't 30 million, it was 11.7 million. For,
I don't know, what's the
that same
difference?
So you lost
One
me after
cross-site
saying
person,
that.
one cross-site person, three cross-sites.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 11 million.
Okay, all right, so thank you for that. So those are my suggestions. Anybody else?
We have more questions.
It's not towards that, it's something I'm just thought about, just making sure, I know you mentioned, and just to make sure we're gonna officially be put on to vote at this meeting. I know you mentioned it, I didn't suggest this, I just wanna make sure. It's
No,
official, and that will be on the.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
All the items that were not voted on were tabled. We didn't have quorum, so they were tabled.
Okay, good.
So
I
we'll
just
be
wanna
adding it
make
back
sure.
for the vote.
Okay,
That'll be okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry, did I mean, we good? Look, you got last points?
Another hand.
I'm sorry, Dave, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to know whether there was a study done on Montgomery and Washington already.
That's how come they put the,
Is that why
The camera?
they
The
put
camera.
the camera?
that was years ago. They put the camera.
Question, was that a study or they just got, they said finally they heard the cries of the people and said put a speed camera?
It could have been.
I think
Well, I
that,
guess we need to know. Find
yeah,
out.
I mean,
Right.
we can double check that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was a study done as so much as, listen, we were talking about it for so long, they finally decided to put a speed camera in the wrong
Well, I would
place.
think that if two people died, I mean, they would have done some type of study and
They don't
changed.
care.
Well, then, it needs to be enforced.
Hello. Sir Herbert. Hello, sir.
Hello.
I know that this is like not my area or my wheelhouse, and I'm still trying to gain understanding about certain things. But when these projects and all of these things that are being done, like how you're saying this new building, you're hearing about this, you're hearing about that, aren't they supposed to come through us? Or is there any level of approval of process through the community board? Like, how does that kind of work? Because that part I'm trying to understand.
Let me say this, historically, one of the issues we had as a board in terms of dealing with DOT is by the time you heard it, it's already
It's a done
something
deal,
that's
right.
done deal. So they'll move the camera 5 feet, or they'll put 3 extra lines on the thing, but they're typically done deals. So that's part of the reason why we try to change the paradigm in terms of let it be driven from the district. We'll tell DOT what is necessary, what the issues are, what the priorities are, as opposed to letting it be driven from that part.
But is there legal, something set up so that, is this a part of the process?
No.
Because.
Here's the thing, the only problem, and part of the problem has always been, is that they come, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
No,
but part of the issue has been that we're a checkbox. So in other words, have you engaged the public? Yes, I went to the committee. Check, and go on to the next steps or whatever you're doing. And that's the problem. It's like, no, we're not a check, where it's like, no, I told the board, or I stopped by a committee and gave them a presentation. It's a matter of, we need to approve these things, or we need to have input in terms of what's happening. Because we live with the consequences on the ground after
Right.
we've done it.
And if people do vote against a lot of stuff, do we actually have the power to stop some of these things?
You should be watching. You should be going last week.
The key has always been this, there's no vote.
Right.
There is no vote.
last week with the
So that's been the way around it, there is no vote, it's just that the board has been advised that this is what was happening. And perhaps they may take some suggestions around the edges, but the projects don't change substantially. So that's what the conversation we're having, and that's part of the reason why we're saying, before they start doing things, or all of a sudden start sending money to DDC to start designing things, no. We haven't finished this conversation yet, it's still an open item, and we need to discuss this.
So the Lincoln Road thing, where did that come from?
Some committee members brought it up initially, seeing like congestion and that sort of thing. some people in the public, replied to us and also brought it up. But it mainly came from looking for areas of the district where travel isn't optimal. Like actually looking out for the area and seeing where choke points might be, where like congestion might be, and exploring ways to solve it.
So, sorry I'm late, by the way. I was running around, busy. All right, and I'm glad you brought up that Lincoln Road project. I saw it online and all the discussions around it. And the concern that I have is, if you take a look at that block, right, Ocean Avenue,
Yeah.
all right?
Ocean of Flatbush.
Right, so if you take Ocean Avenue, right, it goes from, you enter on Parkside and you exit all your Empire.
Yes.
So the length of that roadway is like 6/10 of a mile. I know because I did a lot of projects on there in my former life.
Yeah.
The way the intersection of Lincoln and Ocean is set up is that is a way for traffic to disperse.
Yeah.
So now, if the idea is, well, first of all, the traffic pattern going into the park, that's closed, okay? That's closed, fine. The traffic pattern now, the two-way traffic pattern on Lincoln is a way to ease the traffic flow, right? Because you have this 6/10 of a mile gauntlet. And the only way to relieve the traffic is for traffic that to go eastbound on Lincoln, if you turn on to, Ocean and Parkside. The concern is if you turn around and you make Lincoln only going one way, going to the west, you have a gauntlet that you just set up. Now, the traffic light at Eastern Parkway, at Empire and Lincoln, Empire and Ocean, right? The timing of that light is going to affect what happens to that intersection. Because you have, I think it's like 375 feet from that light going all the way down to Lincoln. Right, so now, traffic backs up about 200 feet, depending on the time of day.
Yeah.
You go into the summertime, you're almost at 300 feet. So the way that it was designed, so that you have an access point to release some of that congestion. Now, as soon as you get onto that roadway, when you go on Eastern Parkway, if you go on Empire and Ocean, and you come into Ocean and Parkside, you're committed to a gauntlet, and you cannot get out for 6/10 of a mile. There is no roadway that is like that. If you wanted to do something like that, then you got to put a roundabout or relieve the congestion at the corner of Empire and Ocean. You gotta put some sort of roundabout because the traffic flow is just going to back up and go beyond that intersection and go all the way down. And it's going to be a choke point.
Thank you.
It's on the Barbados traffic.
Yes.
Which was exactly what I was saying, but I was not allowed to speak because I am a member of the public, and a member of the public obviously is not allowed to speak at these public meetings. But that's the problem. Exactly what he said. I live there, I drive there, I live right off of Empire, and I can tell you, doing that one way, we will be backing all the way up.
I know this because I've done street projects where I have to close streets. And I've been in a number of manholes up and down Ocean Avenue. And I block the traffic. All seasons, all times of the year. And I block it.
You admit it.
I admit it. I admit it. I've done it. It was me. I opened one manhole cover. Everything's blocked.
And also, Rob, I come from a place where all we have is roundabouts like that.
Yes.
Barbados, because we do the English. And you can't put a roundabout there. Warehouse one break close. You can't. You either gotta come. When you're doing a roundabout, you gotta come around and then go slow. You can't come around and go slow.
Traffic lights are totally inefficient for directing traffic. Roundabouts are way more efficient. And you'll have to do something to relieve that congestion up there. If you have to go one way, again, it was designed that you have an access point from that long stretch of roadway, which is about a half a mile, to ease off. Now, you already cut off one going into the park, and you're gonna cut off the other one. You need a full study.
Yep.
It can't happen.
Well, I mean, the full study is part of it. We intend to get at least.
Not a study from CB9.
No.
No, I mean, I think part of the intent that the committee had said was that they wanted to do a survey in terms
Also,
of
yeah,
getting
survey and
sentiment in terms
study.
of what the issues are there.
Yeah.
And additionally, we had recommended, there was a, an idea of, listen, maybe perhaps they should get a traffic study at this point.
Exactly.
In terms of see what's going on,
Yeah.
what the conditions are on the
Yeah.
ground. So,
You need
but
a
I
full
mean,
traffic study.
but thank you to the committee for, listen, it's been there for years and we've groused about it for years, so, thank you to the
And
committee.
I
for
don't, I
saying-
don't see what the problem is currently
That's
right
what the survey's
now.
for.
I mean, I drive down there, I turn that corner, I drive down to get to my house. There's maybe 2 or 3 cars that are in front of me. I don't wait not one light to get out of the intersection. So what's so congested about it? If I'm waiting 3 and 4 lights, I can understand.
Right.
But if there's a 1 car or 2 cars in front of me as I'm leaving that intersection, what's the problem? I'm just a little confused. Where is all the need to change this? Because of course, yes, you want a dedicated bike lane. Let's not forget that part of the proposal. But why? I mean, there, of course, there's gonna be traffic there. You have the bus depot, it's a commercial corridor. Okay, so fine. But where's the traffic that's so bad?
That's what the survey is for.
I'm not talking
well,
about the
well,
survey, I'm
well.
talking about who has brought forth a problem to this committee where you're sitting in traffic for 2 or 3 lights.
He said
Well-
somebody on the committee and then somebody in the public.
People bring problems to
So
us
we know
every
somebody in the committee, cause you
No,
know, they're
well,
all
well,
bikers on the
Well,
committee,
just to speak to
but, you
this,
know, come
just
on.
to speak to this, and we need to close
Not
the meeting,
to
we'll
be-
go back to the committee.
Hold on a second.
No, well, hold on.
Well,
So
why
can
don't
I-
you just let them
I'm sorry.
respond?
No, we need to move on. I just wanna say this,
I've been inundated with questions.
and
I can
at
answer
the
them
committee,
quickly.
you'll handle all the questions. At the committee, you can handle all the questions that will come to you.
Yeah, but I mean,
You-
people,
you-
I'm sure people don't come here to ask
You-
a question to not have it answered the same day.
Understood, we're in an executive committee meeting, so I mean, we've entertained that question. What I will do is, one, the ultimate is refer that to the committee, that's where this conversation's happening. The chair is committed to that, and they are already putting things in way. Now, the only thing I'll say to that really quickly, and then we do need to move on, is going one way is good, but I think that we all can acknowledge that, yes, going on that westbound, I guess it's good.
West going towards Utica Avenue.
West
right?
going, yeah,
Yeah.
Excuse me, west going
west going towards,
towards
yeah,
the park, east
problematic.
goes to Utica Avenue.
Now, the question that we don't have the answer to, I know I don't have the answer to, is what do you do about it? What can we do in terms of doing that? And I think that's why we need more information
Can
and
you
more
clarify,
questions.
what did you say we all agree is problematic?
Westbound is problematic.
Going where?
Most of
So in other words, if
us-
you're going towards Prospect Park, Lincoln Road gets kind of funky around that part of it.
Okay.
Coming off of
Right
it might be a
side,
little bit
right.
easier. So in other words, if you're taking that right off Ocean onto Lincoln Road,
Because of the buses.
yeah.
Yeah, cause it's a
Well,
bus
because of a
depot.
number of things.
Because
Because, because of a number of things.
Mm-hmm.
So now, yeah, it's a little funky. So
But
now,
still,
what to
you
do
get
about it is
through
the
without
question.
going through one light, you don't
Right.
even have to wait 2 lights, you just.
Well, yeah.
So you're saying the east way is easier than the west direction?
Yeah.
East way's one
Well, you know what?
But they're talking about closing it off,
Thank you.
going east, not west.
Thank you.
And you're
Right. And-
saying that west is the problem.
And I'm saying is, I understand that there are questions about that, and there are questions about that. So I think what they're doing is saying, listen, let's understand what the issues are, who has the problem. And you know what? If the survey says, no, we're perfectly good with it, then I guess we've done our job.
Can I ask
Or-
one more question?
Sure. and then we'll
There
get-
was
we'll-
something about, weren't the buses supposed to move from there to somewhere else? Wasn't that a discussion over the last year, or am I mistaken?
Moving?
The buses are
43
not
to
moving.
60.
Not like sitting there waiting or between routes when they're not actually going to pick somebody else up. Instead of parking there, were they not supposed to park somewhere else? No?
No,
Okay.
no.
I thought it was
It
up
doesn't
further
sound-
at
it's
the
not ringing
corner
a
of Flatbush and Ocean. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't ring a bell.
I know,
but I think-
I mean, they do
I
that.
know the parking
during
train used
the-
to go around the corner
I
and
do
park,
know,
and then come around to pick up, because I've been there a lot of times. And the bus would be waiting over there, like,
Yes, and then
on
they
Ocean,
come
and then they
around.
come up back around, but I don't know if it was like a,
But
you
it's
know, a
normally on
prescribed.
the it's when they just have special,
Yes.
Okay, but it
special
wasn't.
events,
Yes.
it's not.
So
a
you got it
permit.
right, but I'm really not sure about the mechanics of it.
And those are points that we'll make sure.
I can answer that question too. There were some plans to have the bus terminus moved on Ocean around the corner, so that buses, they would remove a couple parking spots there and let the buses park there before they turn back on to do the next round of pickups.
So that was.
Not really by us, it was a plan that was not made in the committee or at CB9, but it was a possibility, I think, where the bus redesign and that whole thing.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, but thank you to the committee, and we're looking forward to seeing the materials as well and what's carrying forward. Are there any action items, you know, let me ask this for all the chairs. Are there any action items that we have to have on the agenda for voting? Because I know for youth services education, we have that, those are gonna come back. Economic development, you're good for now for this month. Environmental protection, you're good for this month, no action items, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you have no action items for this month?
No, that's severe. I mean, the same proposal.
Yeah, we just Baby got to come back.
And we,
That's right.
maybe Dante could come chapter letter. We all right now need a vote, right?
Okay. Dante, if you could just get it handy for us, the agenda from last meeting, just so that way we can make sure we just reference those and bring it back. Okay, so if there's anything we need to bring back up, we'll do that.
Am I okay?
I was supposed to be able to speak.
All the reports haven't been done. Okay. All right, so, 2 reports I have for this month. So I have for housing and I have for public safety. So the public safety. Well, actually, let me do housing first. All right. So the housing committee, we scheduled a meeting for this month. Actually, we scheduled meetings for this month and last month. We had no attendance for those committee meetings. Housing has not been able to meet for a couple of months, so it's obviously become an issue. So the chair, the former chair, resigned from the board for personal reasons. So we're trying to see if we can reorganize the housing committee. But attendance has been, we only had one member attend for the last 2 meetings, and attendance was spotty even when they met. I believe the last time they met was actually in October. It was supposed to be part of a joint meeting with land use, yes. So we have some questions around how that committee is going to move forward. So part of that is I'm going to be working with Dante to review that. There are some members on there who are chronically absent. So that's an attendance issue that I also discussed during the chairman's report. So there are some members who are going to have to be dismissed from that committee, and there's some other conversations we have to have about that as well, in terms of how we proceed. So all to say,
you revamping the committee?
we have to revamp the committee. So that is a conversation about revamping that.
Because no one in the committee has showed up.
And thank you very much, Ms. Boyd. So.
Because they don't like the way the committee is being run.
Ms. Boyd, please, Ms. Boyd. So, we are.
So his suggestion is
Ms.
just
Boyd,
remove
Ms.
everybody
Boyd,
off the
Ms. Boyd,
committee and
thank
then
you.
put a whole
Thank you very much,
new
Ms. Boyd.
committee instead of
Ms.
dealing with
Boyd.
the issue.
Ms. Boyd. If you want to comment now, you can make your comments now.
Yes, I would like to make my comments now, if you don't mind, Fred, because I've been asking to make my comments since I got here.
Okay, so it's about you and when you want to make the comments. is
No, it's about following the law.
And it is.
Fred, you're
And-
supposed to provide
and
a
you are recognized,
portion
and the
when
rules are
there's a
you are
public.
recognized.
I've been standing here,
Thank you
sitting
very much.
here all
So,
day
with the
trying
housing
to
committee,
speak.
what is going to happen at this point is we are going to look at revamping it, but part of it, there are going to be some additional conversations. Yeah, we're going to have to look at the.
You're not even gonna address the fact that 9 of
So,
the members refused to
Anyway,
show up.
so thank you very much. So we're going to look at that. That is a conversation we're gonna have. There are probably gonna be some people dismissed from that committee. We're going to rebuild the committee as well. And we're gonna build a plan going forward to, one, make sure it is functional, and we set up a plan in terms of what the expectations they're gonna do over the rest of this year. So that is gonna be
It
forthcoming.
would be nice to
having
have
that
a chair.
conversation. Okay, so thank you very much. Any questions from the executive committee?
Is there gonna be a chair of the committee assigned?
When we have revamped the committee, thank you.
Who's the chair?
There needs to be a chair, because that was
When
why
we
they,
have revamped.
why they protested,
There
because there
is-
was no chair.
There is no committee right now.
Right, what day?
Nobody
what
showed
days
up.
do they normally meet?
Now that's a little bit of a tricky question, because especially with the back end of the year, the first few months of the year, we are moving all the schedules, so none of the committees have really met on a regular basis.
Maybe if you know what sense.
No, from September, from
Oh, yes,
September to
September.
December, because of the holidays and everything else, so typically,
Yes.
you meet on the same day, you met on the same day every month?
You're not there.
Okay. We're one of the few not affected. Most of the committees have had to move months.
Because we discussed it, that the
Understood.
days that come, then we will move, because we
Understood.
know the holidays, what?
No, but a number of committees have not had that ability to meet on a regular basis because new dates have had to be moved because of the holiday observances. So, but notwithstanding, But notwithstanding,
Alright.
even notwithstanding that, some of the attendance records that we looked at, the preliminary look is, some people haven't showed up.
Who was the chair?
Chair was, Erin Mazursky.
Erin.
Erin Mazursky.
Sorry, Ron,
You need more?
Because she had, so she had resigned, we haven't replaced her as chair. I was going to serve as the chair on the interim basis, just to kind of figure out who's here, what the conversations were, just to kind of get that together, and we're gonna resolve the chair issue. We haven't even been able to have a meeting, so that's part of the problem, and part of that is because of attendance issues.
And part of it is because you
and thank you.
combined it with the land
And looking
use
at that
committee.
is also part of because some of the makeup of the committee, these are people who've been chronic attendee, absentees for board meetings as well. So that's part of the reason why we have to look at that and kind of figure out what we're.
It's not has anything to do with how you've been handling.
Thank you very
committee.
much, Ms. Boyd. All right, so that is for housing. Questions from the exec with respect to that? Okay. All right.
I have one.
Go ahead.
I mean, in your mind, do you have any plans to differentiate in the land use?
It is differentiated from land use, right?
Not divide.
And I'm not sure the.
Like, I'm curious what kind of conversations they'll be having that are not land use conversations, or at least like that are separate. Like, what would make somebody want to join that committee as opposed to you or?
Okay. Now here's to give a little bit of history with respect to that. One of the attempts that we tried to make at the beginning of the year is that we said that there are a lot of conversations that do cross over between housing and land use. So there are a lot of conversations that they have in common. So one of the things we wanted to do early this year was the plan was to have those committees meet jointly, similar to the way education, library, and youth services meet. So the idea being they can cross-pollinate. So some things they'll be working on together. The idea also being they would split up periodically because there would be some things that this is specifically a land use issue and this is something specifically housing. We couldn't get housing to meet, period. Now, with that being said, that's part of the reason why we wanted to have the meeting, to kind of start those conversations around what specifically is a housing perspective. So some of that would be in terms of understanding what the housing needs are, being able to inform conversations. For example, when we go to land use, so in their terms of, all right, what is the home ownership situation in the district? What size of apartments do we need? I mean, if you have buildings that build only one studios and one bedroom apartments, you ignore a whole other segment of the district. What is the profile of people who live in the district? So in other words, if you're charging $5,000 of rent, you X'd out 3/4 of the district. Those are the kinds of questions we wanted housing, or we think might, I don't want to say we wanted, we think might be appropriate for a housing committee to handle separate from land use. But again, those are the conversations we kind of want to spur and drive a little bit. But we need to get them functional first before we can even tackle that. So that's part of the reason why we're looking at that aspect of make it viable. So get the people in there. I don't know what the size is going to look like, but we need to make sure they're going to be the people who are going to be committed to this conversation, and at least give them a kind of a game plan in terms of what they're going to do over the next 4 to 5 months.
Right, you have mentioned that, we can perhaps get some organizations that can help with that. That's
Absolutely. Well, no, absolutely, and that's part of it as well in terms of, we do have expertise. As a matter of fact, at the December meeting, we had a gentleman who came in who was with an organization.
Brooklyn Housing.
Was it with Brooklyn Housing?
Yes, sir.
Came from Brooklyn Housing. And actually, I'm saying is even the December meeting.
Yes.
So somebody came and he was like with an organization. They were doing legal advice for
Yes.
people who are dealing with landlord-tenant issues.
Yes.
Again, that which might be one of those things that falls strictly within housing as opposed to a land use. But yeah, absolutely, we want to be able to have the conversations, create those linkages with those kinds of organizations who are on the ground, and be able to do that. But that's what we're trying to move towards. Okay, did I answer your question?
Yeah.
All right.
Comment.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I always, read up and do research on the housing projects that's going up in our area. And there are so many housing projects. It seems like everybody's next to each other. And you always see stuff like how much, what percentage of this is going to the community, right? But by the time the project is finished, it's open, you don't see nobody from your community in those spaces. Where would that go? Would that be like a housing project? So that when the developers, connect you know, cause you always gotta go through Housing Connect and something like that. But somebody read those things, see how they come to the committee to say, look, is this enough for us? And then the other part, the shit and you says, oh, but you got this building big, like last week when we had the hearing, right? There was a lot of stuff. I gotta be honest. Miss Marlin was like, oh my, that ain't good, girl. But I mean, like, how do you put these two things together? Are we just quarrel about if you want to put commercial in this and then it goes up and then we don't even know our neighbors that go closing? And they got specific things in the paper that's gonna happen. 5% for the community, 6% for the board, and then we don't know. How do we get involved in that? How did the housing committee get involved? So I can understand the division, land uses, the developers and what you put in and the space and stuff, but the housing part is like the applications and who goes in there. How do we get it, how do you put it together?
And that's, listen, that's part of the reason why we might need those two separate committees that are functional and really work. Because you're right, there's different conversations, and then we're getting into conversations about what's getting built as of right and what the zonings are, and again, going back to what are the needs. I think it's good for us, it's necessary for us to have a good grasp in terms of what is the need in the district. To the point again, you know, the example I used. If you're gonna build a complex, or if you're gonna ask for a zoning for a variance to build something where it's $5,000 in rent and everything is a studio or 1-bedroom apartment, what is it really doing?
598 things, six, only six 1-bedroom apartments.
But when's the argument is us having the data, in terms of us understanding, because we're the ones who should have that information about what's in our district and what the needs are, and being able to quantify that in terms of, if we're having any conversations, this is the baseline in terms of what should be done. And again, I think being able to say, listen, having a housing committee that's able to speak to, okay, never mind even getting you to an apartment or a building, what supports do you have once you're in? So whether it be legal, whether it be landlord-tenant rights, whether it be rent stabilization, whether it be, I still hold on to the dream, homeownership. What happens in the district, what's out there, what's available, what programs, and being able to have those conversations and bring resources into the district. So I didn't give any answers, but I think.
But you gotta got some training for people you wanna put on these committees that they know what they're talking about when they represent things.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, and that's part of the conversation, but we gotta get them functioning in the room first.
You gotta
Now
have a
open the
separate
meeting and I'll
committee.
leave a comment, you will see
gotta
it
have
work.
a chair, you gotta start with the basics.
Thank you, Ms. Boyd, and, well, you gotta have a committee before you can even have a chair. We'll get to that. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, were there any other questions
No,
with
that's
respect to
it.
housing?
Okay.
Okay, stay tuned, members of the exec, so I'll be having conversations as we're progressing, we'll do that, but I'll definitely fill everybody in. And there'll be a little bit of a dovetail when I get to the chair report, because there are gonna be some conversations about that. Okay, so that completes the housing, that's for informational purposes. Next one I have is public safety. So public safety met this month. Public safety met. So we have a couple of items that we're talking about. First of all, I just want to thank the members of the public safety committee, personally, publicly, in terms of all the work they're putting in. They've really been conscientious. I know that part of the knock about public safety is that all we do is, liquor licenses and whatever it is. I think we're really trying to change the paradigm, understanding that's still something important, so we want to talk about other aspects. So one of the conversations we're having is about SLA criteria, because I know this is a conversation that pops up in the board meetings in terms of what are we approving, or what are the criteria, or what is it exactly we're looking for in terms of cooperation from people who are opening up, getting liquor licenses in the district. So that's leading to other conversations in terms of we're trying to get information in terms of what's legally allowed, what rules and regulations apply. Having some other conversations about what is it, what are the desires of the district, making sure that we're uniform and consistent, about doing updates to our applications, so that way we kind of set this, the expectations in terms of, as a board, we're looking for closing times at certain times. We're looking for places that are not near certain, sensitive areas. We're looking for these things. Being able to communicate that in advance, so anybody who's coming to the district knows CB9 is okay with this, but if you're saying I want some place where it's gonna be 24-hour rules, no, can't have that. But of course, that's not permitted by law, that much we know. But otherwise, we just wanna make sure that we're having those conversations, we're able to set that. Because especially if we can get that set at the committee level, hopefully it clarifies the conversations when we get to the board and we have to decide on these things.
Can't put out recommendations.
Absolutely, and I would invite all members to please come, because right now we're in that research phase.
I meant, you said legally you can't do this. So legally you can't publish recommendations or.
No, we could. We absolutely could.
What can't you do legally?
No, I was saying, like, for example, if an applicant said they wanted to serve booze 24 hours, legally they can. There are restrictions in terms of what times you can serve. But even within the restrictions, as a community and as a board, we could set other standards as well, where it's like, okay, you can't do it 24 hours, but we figure out you can serve, a stipulation of the board is always going to be, you can serve until this time. But then there'll be other nuanced conversations around, okay, well, listen, are there specific corridors we want to protect? Are there sensitive areas? And those kinds of conversations. We want to kind of prevent those conversations having to happen on the board, you know, during the board meetings. If we can set those in advance, it makes it a smoother conversation where it's really more that, did they adhere to the checklist the board established? And if they've done that, we can have some questions, but otherwise we're able to address. So that's one of the things we're looking at. I want to thank Dante. We're also reaching out in terms of safety in the district. I know that lithium batteries and e-bike fires have been an enormous thing that have been happening in the district and the city. So one of the things we've done is we've reached out to FDNY. We're trying to see if we can actually have a program with them where we talk about that. What are the issues? What are the challenges around that? What are the best practices for safety? What are the responses for that as well? So that way we can inform the public and make sure they understand that as well. And we become more, we become more intelligent about that conversation. Hopefully we get to a point where we can make suggestions as well. And it's important too because we're starting to see things like, okay, charging stations and all this other stuff. So we want to understand what's going on and what the policies are and what the real questions are about that. So those are a couple of things that are coming up. So we're trying to see if we can get the lithium battery conversation for next month. Now, in terms of action items, we do have 2 items that are going to be for board approval. One of them is from last month. Is going to be an item that was tabled because it wasn't considered for 887 NOST. So that application was approved by the committee, and that's going to be coming up next at this meeting, as we weren't able to dispose of it at the December meeting. And then the second one is for renewal for Pearl Bees Wash Tub. So this is an item for you, the board members may remember, on Rogers Avenue, exactly. So they are up for renewal. So they went before the committee, and the committee approved it unanimously as well. So those are the 2 items that we're going to ask to be placed on the agenda. All right, and with that, that completes my report for public safety. Are there any questions? Okay. All right, hearing none. Okay. Are there any committees, and I apologize if I missed anybody in advance, any committees that did not report?
No, service, right?
Okay. All right, hearing none, so that completes the committee reports. All right, so what we're going to do is this. We're going to do the administrative check-in. I'm going to give a very brief chairman check-in.
You said that you were going to allow me to
If
speak
you allow
after
me,
that.
oh my gosh. If
You're
you
now
allow
saying,
me,
you're now moving it.
I was just saying, in terms of the agenda, the DM will give his report, I will give my report, and I will allow you a moment to address
No,
the
you
committee.
said that you would allow me to speak after the committees did their report.
And
That's
I'm
what you
going
said
to-
at the beginning. Now you're putting, no, I would like to speak. I've been here long enough. I've been waiting for an hour and a half. I would like to speak.
Ms. Boyd, you
I
don't
would
have
like
a
to
right
speak.
And you do
I
not have
would
a
like
right
to
to
speak.
speak.
I do
It
have
is
a
a
right to
courtesy-
speak.
no.
This is an open
It
meeting.
is
I
a
have the
courtesy.
right to speak.
You have an open.
I have a right to speak.
Do
You
we have to
stated
break out
at
the
the
open meetings law?
beginning,
Do
you
we have to break
stated
out
at
the
the
open meetings
beginning
law?
that after the committee's report that I would be
And-
allowed to speak. This is what you stated. You need to keep to your word.
1 minute, 30 seconds, please, time.
2 minutes and I'm gonna speak.
You don't have 2 minutes. A minute, 30
I'm
seconds.
gonna speak.
You know what? 2
Fred
minutes. Boyd,
sat there.
2 minutes, 2 minutes.
Fred sat
minutes.
there
2
and
minutes.
sabotaged the housing committee by sitting there insisting that the housing committee, which was made up of all black women, join in with the land use committee. The women on that committee stated they did not want to do that. They wanted to meet separately so that they could organize themselves, so they could talk about training, so they could talk about the things that they needed to do. Fred refused to allow them to separate. They came in September. All of the committee members came except for the chair. They sat and watched the land use committee work and did nothing. They came in October, did the same thing, sat and watched the land use committee work, and they did nothing. They protested. It was a silent protest. This committee, this executive committee did not do anything. Fred refused to appoint the chair. He refused to allow this committee to meet separately. This committee has been saying over and over again, we want to meet separately. We do not want to join in with land use until we have our own business taken care of. This has not been the situation. And now what you're doing is you're penalizing these board members and committee members. Instead of addressing the issue, now they're just gonna be dispersed and now we're just gonna have a whole new committee. I think that this needs to be addressed. The second issue is the fact that Suki and Fred changed the vote of the land use committee. You guys had a special meeting, the vote was changed. The land use committee was extremely upset over this changing of the vote. They voted a straight no on that application. However, when Fred presented his alternative, which he was not supposed to do, he changed it from a no to a no with conditions. The land use committee was extremely upset over this. At their last meeting, they passed a motion stating that never should this ever happen again. That any decision of the land use committee should be honored and reported as a decision of that committee, and that Fred and Suki should not be changing their vote and presenting it to the board when that was not their vote.
Okay, thank you.
Nor was there a discussion about
Thank you,
that.
Ms. Boyd. Okay, thank you.
This
Ms.
type
Boyd,
of
thank you.
behavior needs to
Ms. Boyd,
stop.
Ms. Boyd, you've
by
exceeded your
Fred
time. You've
and
exceeded your
Suki.
time.
And there's
Thank you
also
very
been
much.
a request for
All
Suki
right,
to
so
be
we are now going to
removed
move on
off
to the
of the
agenda.
as
Next
chair
item we will
of the
have
committee.
is the report of the district manager.
People have been
which will be
complaining
followed
about her
by-
behavior,
Which will be followed by my report.
and they've been talking about
Dante,
the
go
fact
ahead.
that she
Ms.
has
Boyd,
been
Ms. Boyd,
overriding
Ms.
and,
Boyd,
and
Ms. Boyd,
producing policies
Ms. Boyd,
that have
you have
not
exceeded your
been
time.
approved by the
We
land
only
use
allowed you 2
committee
minutes and you have
and
exceeded that by
presenting
2
it.
minutes and 30 seconds already.
and presenting
We allowed you the
and
courtesy of being able to
presenting
go
In
uninterrupted.
June, she
Thank you very
created
much,
a
Ms. Boyd.
policy
Dante,
that
go
was
ahead.
not
Your report, please.
approved by the land use committee. She
Yeah.
approved the land
Dante,
use,
please.
she presented a land use committee policy that was not approved by the land use committee. The land use committee did not know about it. She produced it and presented it in June, and
Ms.
the community
Ms.
board voted on it,
Ms. Boyd.
and didn't he not realize
Ms.
that it
Boyd.
had not come
Ms.
and been
Boyd,
vetted
you are
in
out of
front
order.
of the
You are
community?
out of
Yes,
order.
that is true.
Thank
Please
you.
write it down.
Ms.
And this
Boyd,
is what
you
they
are out of
talked
order.
about. They talked
You
about
are
the
out
fact
of
that
order.
Suki is
Ms.
presenting
Boyd.
housing policies and land
Dante,
use
do you have a
policies
report right now?
that have not been vetted with through the committee.
Then I will
This
continue with
needs
my
to
report.
stop.
So,
This needs to
we are
stop.
going to go to the chairman's
I hope
report.
you're writing this down.
So, we are
Ms.
going to go to the
Secretary.
chairman's report.
It's been
So I have-
recorded over.
Well, I
Just-
hope you're
I
also
have just
writing
a
it
few
down
items.
because it is
I
an
have just a
issue.
few items
For
that I need to
Suki to
report
be
to the committee.
presenting policies,
So with respect,
land use
first
policies
of all,
that
I
have
want-
not
I
been
do want to-
vested,
now.
has
Ms.
not
Ms.
been
Boyd.
prevented. I don't care.
First of all,
Like
so
you
with
guys-
respect
You
to,
You
just a couple
Please
items
make
very
sure
briefly.
that it's there.
With respect
Please
to
make sure that it's on
7399, so per the board
Let me
vote,
tell you something. I sit
per the
here
board vote,
and I get
Can you still
disrespected.
talk to
I
me?
get to
Like,
know.
can
You
we
didn't say
finish?
anything about when every time I ask a question, I don't hear you
I'm just
saying,
you're
why don't you let this
repeating,
woman
you're
speak?
repeating over and
It doesn't
over
matter.
and
It doesn't matter. You sit
So-
there and
so,
watch him be
it's okay.
disrespectful
it's
to
okay.
community members. Like
So-
all the only people that's supposed to be able to talk are board
I never
members.
said any of
Communities.
that.
All
I
right
never
then.
said
So
any
why
of
aren't you
that.
sitting there saying to him?
7399?
When I'm sitting here,
Special
I raise
meeting?
my hand. When I
No,
sit there and raise
Debbie,
my hand, I get silenced by Fred. I can't speak. I can't speak
We're
at
contributing.
all at anything. I can't ask questions. Right, it's not productive for you. It's not productive. It's not productive
So-
for me
so-
because I'm a member
so-
of the public.
so-
Okay, and everything
Here's-
that this board does affects me.
So,
So why can't I come and sit down here and just be respected? But now you don't want me to say anything. Now you don't want me to cause any problems. But when I was speaking and just talking and just asking questions, did you sit there and support me? Did you sit there and say, well, Fred, let her speak? Everybody else can ask questions. Was I being rude? I was just saying a question. Like, what's going on with Lincoln Road? Why can't I speak about Lincoln Road? Did you say anything? No, you did not. You did not. You watched this man abuse the
Miss, you're
public.
just trying to argue right now. I'm not arguing
All right
with you.
then. All right then. All right. So please don't tell me what to do and not to do, because I don't see you doing anything to sit here and support the community and being able to have a conversation.
that's not it.
Because the
All right.
moment that
So-
I act up, then
You're
it's me.
still taking up time.
Right.
We're trying to
Right.
get through this.
Well, hey, then have some respect for the
Right.
public and let the public speak.
No, thank you very much. No, okay, so we are now
You know,
going
because
to,
I'm tired
still
of coming here.
going.
That's right.
Like, come
Because I'm
on.
tired of coming to this community
Miss
board
Boyd, nobody's
and speaking.
trying to argue with you, and you still
Hey,
arguing.
hey, no, it's not about
Can you
arguing.
stop now
Miss
so we
Boyd.
can
It's not,
continue
no, I don't,
on?
why should I? Why should I?
being disruptive at this
Oh, right,
point.
right, because
Okay,
that's all you
so-
want me
so-
to do, right?
so-
You want Fred to do whatever he wants to do. You got a housing committee that has not met yet.
What do you want to try?
Has not met yet.
Something like this.
Our community is not functioning.
This boy,
Our housing committee has not functioned for 4 months. We got people being thrown out of their apartments, and this housing committee has been completely dysfunctional. And y'all have sat there and said nothing about it. You've done nothing about it.
this
You
boy.
watch him sit there and sabotage our committees. And then when somebody comes and speaks about it, oh, you're disrupting.
Can I say-
Why should this community not have a housing committee that functions and works?
Okay, so I've been talking to Fred and, I'm sorry, excuse me, and we came up with an organization that would address the issues of housing, because you know that's what we do. That's what Washington Avenue do, WABA, CACC. And we're offering and we're talking about this with Fred, and we're gonna bring him in here so we can have a housing committee, which they are informative. Okay, please, that's what we're gonna do.
Is it gonna be separate from the land use committee? Are they gonna merge with the land use committee? Or is the housing committee gonna be able to be separate and work on its own agenda? That's the issue.
Well, that was what Fred was
That's what you were saying.
discussing.
No, he didn't say that. He didn't say that it was gonna meet separately outside of the land use committee and work on its own agenda. Is that what's gonna happen? Yes or no? I'm just asking you a question. Is it gonna happen?
Ideally, yes.
Ideally?
I'll answer it direct.
Ideally? I'm not talking about ideas. I'm talking about practicality. Is the land use committee going to meet separately to work on their own issues and sit there and work on the community's
Let me
issues
answer
based
you.
upon and not merge with the land use
Let me
committee?
answer
Yes
you.
or no?
It's gonna
Yes, then that's what I'm
It's gonna be
expecting.
a yes. I can't tell you by when. I can't say it'll happen next
Right.
week, but it's a yes to that question.
That's
All right.
That's what should happen.
Yes.
Okay. And I mean, if I could answer the question about Lincoln Road to both of you. Yeah. The thinking about that was there's a lot going on in Lincoln in that one block span. And we're looking at ways to use the space better. Because right now, you have trucks loading, you have buses coming in, you have cars going 2 ways. It's a lot. And a lot of the time, it's blocked because a truck and a bus have the road and that's it. That's all it can pass. So we're trying to see what will happen if it's one lane. Of course, you mentioned the bikes, they exist. It's not a must-have, but we're looking to see how could the space be used better so that more things could move and move faster. We all want that. And I know you also had a couple of concerns about, you know, who brought this up and who wants this. Well, that's not the driving force because we're trying to survey folks and see if it's a problem. If it isn't a problem, people like it the way it is, then fine. But yeah, the whole point is to have people who are looking out to see where a problem could be and solve it, you know, either before it becomes a bigger problem or just solve a known issue that people have become used to. That's all that is. So we're gonna do a survey to see, is this a problem people are feeling, is it a pain point? And if it is, we're gonna find ways to make it better. We already have some ways in mind, but we're gonna find the ideal ones. But yeah, there's no like insidious person trying to like make the streets look a certain way. Just trying to make everything that's on the road work better together. So of course there's bikes there. People go in the park on bikes, the bike shop across the street, the city bikes right there. We're trying to see how we could fit everything there efficiently, use the space better so everything could move. That's it.
Dante, your report?
Alright. This flyer we will continue to disseminate. The New York City Department of Transportation has an opportunity to expand its network of curbside electric vehicle chargers through a grant that they received this past summer. DOT has identified potential locations for new charging implementation. The location set for our district is President Street between Utica and Rochester, Schenectady Avenue between President and Union, and then Schenectady between Union and Eastern Parkway. So DOT did not give us a date or a timeline for anything, so we're just trying to get as much information as possible from the community to figure out if they actually want the EV chargers or not. So please direct people to that and fill that out. SUNY Downstate, a Stronger Downstate public hearing has been scheduled. That public hearing is scheduled for tomorrow. You probably saw it if you received our e-blast. It will be at 6 p.m. at SUNY Downstate 395 Lenox Road. This will be the first of 3 public hearings to discuss SUNY Downstate. So as we get them, we'll continue to blast those out as well. The Department of Consumer and Worker Protection is proposing to amend its rules related to the Earned Safe and Sick Time Act. Part M of Chapter 55 of the Laws of 2024 amended section of the New York State labor law by requiring every employer to provide its employees 20 hours of paid prenatal personal leave during any 52-week calendar period. This proposed rule amendment would incorporate the labor's law's paid prenatal personal leave requirements and clarifies the penalties and remedies that DCWP may order for violations of such requirements. DCWP will be holding this public hearing at 11 a.m. on February 14th. February 14th via video conference, so we'll have the link in the e-blast. If you want to submit written comments, you can submit that to rule comments at bcwp.nyc.gov. The Department of Finance is proposing a rule relating to a new local law governing the enforcement of property tax collection. The Department of Finance will hold a public hearing at 11 a.m. On Monday, February 3rd via WebEx. This proposed rule would establish how qualified property owners can renew a property tax hardship installment agreement through self-certification of income and primary residence, 1. Also apply for removal of the tax lien and appeal a denial of an application or removal. It will also demonstrate that they are qualified for a tax lien certificate surcharge waiver, and also apply for a program that allows the property owner to participate in the DOF preservation tract program. If you wish to submit written comment, you can provide that to dofrules@finance.nyc.gov. We'll also have that in our e-blast as well. The Department of Environmental Protection is proposing to promulgate a rule to amend the noise code penalty schedule and the community right to know law penalty schedule. DEP will hold this public hearing at 12 noon on February 3rd this year. You can email your comments to nyrules@dep.nyc.gov. The community right to know law, because I'm sure a lot of people are unfamiliar with that, requires the city to effectively regulate the storage, use, and handling of hazardous substances. As part of this law, the agency oversees the use and storage of hazardous substances that pose a threat to public health and environment. So that's what that is. Just some administrative items. There was a structural fire on the 20th in the early morning at 102 East 46th Street, a 2-story private dwelling. That fire was placed under control, and there was 0 reported civilian casualties. So there have been a couple of fires happening in the district, so as we get information from FDNY, we'll continue to add that to the e-blast.
Is it in the same area?
Yeah, it was in the same area. So around East 46th, I believe that there was one in the past 4 months that also happened in that area too.
That's really good, right?
Right around the corner.
That's, you know.
It's definitely been a
That place
force.
was on fire, this is the second time it happened
Same
within
place?
4 years.
Same place?
Same building, yeah, same
It's the
house.
same one?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
Is that a private house?
yes,
Yes. That's the same.
don't know.
That's interesting. Okay.
I never followed up to find out.
That's
Okay.
right, someone wants this.
The community board application is live. The deadline is February 14th at 11 p.m. The application can be found on the CB9 website. You can also go to the Borough President's website as well. Let's see, DOT has informed me its department recently completed a study regarding the need for additional traffic controls at the intersection of Washington Avenue and Sterling Street. DOT has approved a traffic signal for this location. Installation will be performed by a contractor and is tentatively scheduled to be completed by April 30th of this year.
Why there?
I know that, that's my intersection.
Okay, so
they just put a U-Haul there. They put a U-Haul business there, so all of a sudden, there's supposed to be no parking, and all of a sudden, there's a lot of traffic going through there, all of a sudden. So, I don't know why they are allowed to park, are they allowed, the commercial vehicles allowed to park in the no parking zone between 8 and 4 PM if it says no parking between 8 and 6 PM?
I think with a commercial plate, they might be able to park, but I can confirm.
Could you please, because they just take up the whole corridor now, they're just taking up the entire.
They're on Washington?
Yeah, they're on Washington,
Are you
and so
saying-
they're putting a crossroad, and there's also a school right there.
Yeah.
Inside of the
Right,
building,
right.
so that's the MS school. So
Right.
you're putting the MS school, you're putting this U-Haul all of a sudden, and then also you stop that turn, so now everybody is bunched up, so I guess they feel like it's a hazard.
No parking. Okay. So, yes, that, FY 26 discretionary funding expense application, is open. The application is posted on the council website. Let's see. And yeah, okay, so it's posted on the council website. The deadline for that application is February 19th. So if you know any folks looking for a discretionary fund from the council, we can send them the information, but direct them to the budget page on the council website. And then there have been a couple of resignations that have taken place over the past week or so, so I just wanted to note that. Max Cohen, Rafaela Godoy, Rabbi Berman, Dwayne Saab also resigned, and then Yosef Hershkov also resigned as well, so I wanted to note that for the
Could you read it back for me? Rabbi Berman,
Max Cohen,
Raphael.
Rafaela Godoy,
For Berman, it's been on the-
Rabbi Berman,
Got him?
Rabbi Berman,
Dwayne Saab, and Yusuf Hershkov.
how many of that, how many of?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Five people. And then we had letters that we needed to send out to some members that we didn't have quorum, didn't show up last time, and they haven't responded to any of our correspondence. Kristen Thomas Barrington, and then also Brittany Ellington haven't responded to calls, emails, or anything from the board office. That's where we're at. Yep.
So Herbert,
Okay, so just, let's go on one thing. Dante, you said before about the street light. Last year, you mentioned about a street light that was approved for Troy
Troy.
Avenue and Rutland Road.
Mhm.
Is there any way we can find out where that stands?
I will.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to ask, if this fire keeps happening in this private house, should there not be an investigation? Because it's dangerous to keep having fires because all the neighboring
Same
places.
house.
If that's the same house, that's
House,
fine.
then you got something going on, and it looks like they got a business going on in there.
Something.
Correct. I'm gonna look
Yeah.
to see
Oh, yes,
previous
yeah.
reports that were
Yeah.
sent, cause,
what kind of building?
yeah, cause that's.
So I
that's a tenant.
think you should ask for an investigation into that.
That's a safety issue.
Yes.
Same house.
Alright,
It's in there.
questions, alright,
Are there
so
houses
let's take this,
attached?
let's take this more.
Crazy.
Are there any other questions for the DM from the members of the exec? Good so far?
Just a general question regarding the applications.
Application, sure, go ahead.
Is there a site that says when everyone's term comes up, or do we get individual emails?
What I've come to learn is that, Borough Hall will email board members
Yes.
individually
Individually,
without us even knowing.
Yeah.
So you guys will get email directly from them, so.
And we got to.
Yes, that's folks.
And,
That's nice.
and just to make an announcement about that too, please, even if you don't get an email, it's probably worth it for you to contact Borough Hall just to confirm. Because we've seen it in the past where members have not gotten an email even though they were up. And also just to make sure, I'm not sure if it applies to anybody here, but we've had board members who were midterm appointments.
Right.
So usually you understand your appointment to be for 2 years, they were midterms, so they were only filling a term.
When they tell you that in your letter.
They do, but
They
what I'm
do,
saying
So
is,
you should get your,
Yeah, no, no, but
your
I'm just saying
calendars together.
no, but I'm just saying is just to make sure that there's no confusion about that, so it's like, it's always a good thing. If you were reappointed last year, you're good, you're not worried about anything. if you're up or, if you weren't part of that cycle last year, it's probably good just to contact Borough Hall just to confirm.
Oh, your letter.
Well, with that
But
said,
you can ask me, I do have the list.
I was about to say
I do
that
have it.
the board
but-
office should have that information.
But you
And
should
send
have,
an email
you
out.
should have received an
Email.
email directly
Yes,
from Borough
directly
Hall
from Borough-
if you are
you
up right now.
Yes,
It was sent in December.
Yeah.
okay, good.
that's the time you made your term end, so you know if your term end in 2016, I never reapplied over from Borough Hall to tell you.
All right.
I don't know certain people get certain things, so let me shut up.
All right. Any other questions for the DM?
And we also created this flyer for the small business guide, so if you
Yes,
use the
that was-
QR code, you can
Yeah,
scan that. They did a good job.
I'll be sending it to all my people that.
All right, thank you very much for your report. Okay, so my report is gonna be very brief for this month. I think a couple of items already been touched. So one, the downstate hearing for tomorrow. So that is scheduled for tomorrow. I have scheduled to provide some testimony. My testimony is gonna be very brief and just in terms of reiterating that downstate is a critical component in terms of the healthcare system in the district. I do have questions around how this process is going and what the expected outcomes are. And I think that definitely we need to make sure that there's more communication. Three hearings, I'm not sure if it's gonna be sufficient for us to get what we need to get out of this. So one of the things that I know I had spoken to my counterpart in 17 is that we were looking to do additional town halls or hearings or just having some additional conversations around this. I think there's a lot of information that needs to be given about this, about what the plans are, what the budget is, and what the historical issues have been as well. I think it's important for us to be able to come up with something reasonable and decent with respect to downstate. So, just to reiterate, please, I encourage people to go to the hearing, at least to show presence, even if you're not gonna testify. And then we are gonna be having conversations around what position CB9 is really gonna take around this as well. So that'll be a conversation we'll have. All right, so we already discussed the housing committee, so that's gonna be a conversation, talking with the district manager. We're gonna be identifying some individuals in terms of haven't been attending, and there are gonna be conversations around how we restructure to make sure that the committee's gonna be viable going forward.
Is SUNY in our CB9 district?
They are, here's the thing. Downstate is not in our district, but we are in their catchment. We are in their
They
service.
definitely.
So, yeah, so as a matter of fact, as part of the legislation that was passed, CB9 and 17 were named specifically as, being, community boards. So that's part of the reason why it's gonna be very high priority for us in terms of making sure we're part of that process. All right, yeah, so 7399 Empire Boulevard, so I wanna thank all the members of the board and who came out for the special meeting. Understood. All the members of the board came out for 7399. So,
Read that, we're online, yeah.
Your thing is dragging.
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the borough president's office had his testimony, his hearing that happened on the 15th. So we went, a number of people from CB9 went and testified as part of that. So we are definitely looking at that, and we want to continue to make sure that we are pushing the community's position with respect to that. I think it's very critical. A lot of the conversations we had today really are part of this in terms of what are we allowing. Land use applications are variances. They are variances against what is the current zoning. If we are going to talk about going against the zoning that has been set for an area, we should be talking about if anything is to be done, what is the benefit that comes back? So in other words, if we're doing this, what is coming back? Are we getting community facilities? Are we getting affordable housing? Are we getting certain things? So those are conversations that absolutely need to be a part of that, and so they'll be continuing as part of the Europe and the housing as we continue on. But I just want to let everyone know that this is something that is very high on the priority, and I fully intend to make sure that the board is represented, our position is represented in all these meetings as well. Okay, membership and attendance. So this has been a topic that's come up in some form or fashion over the course of the meeting. I have to say that I'm very disappointed that we weren't able to make quorum in December is an understatement. I think it's a dereliction of our duty as board members, as a board, because we have things that have to get done. We have things to do. I fully understand life happens and things can come up every once in a while, and that's fine. But when you can't get half of a board to show up for a meeting to do these things, that's a problem. And I want to make sure that we're addressing it in terms of reiterating what the attendance policy is, making sure people are committed to the board. I don't expect 100% attendance. I don't expect everybody's here for all 10 meetings plus every board, committee meeting. I understand life happens, but when it starts getting into the neck of the woods where we can count, if we have to start wondering who is this person every time their name is called, that becomes an issue. So we are looking into that. We're having conversations with the district manager who I've already identified, and I do want to say that even some of the names of people who have been called, it's been conversations that have been had in terms of they understood that, listen, they weren't able to commit what they wanted to the board. I always prefer that as a mechanism. I don't believe in shaming people, especially people who volunteer to do something. But then there's a certain point where it's like, if you are not able to honor that commitment, then let's be able to move forward, and that becomes the conversation. And I want to be very clear, I typically don't like to do this thing where it's like it's automatically, let's write them up and get them out. The district office, I have a number of conversations with them in terms of, and if anything, usually our conversation is first, find out if somebody's okay. Find out if somebody's okay first, because life happens. If somebody's, health issues, if it's caretaking his responsibilities, if things have happened at work, and we get that, and I want us to be a compassionate board for that as well. I'm sorry? Yeah, I'll get to you 1 second. Debbie, just hold on. Can you hold on for 1 second? Okay, great. But I want to make sure that those are conversations that we have. But at the same time, we also want to make sure that we're able to move as a board, and that means people need to show up, we need to do what we need to do, and we need to be able to vote on these things. So that's what's happening with that. We are continuing to look at the attendance, and just to explain something to the executive committee as well. These conversations typically end up being towards the end of the year, or towards the beginning of the year. And that goes because of the way the process works. We have 8-month look back that we're looking at attendance. And it's typically not until about 4 or 5 months in that you're actually able to look and see what the problems are. Because typically people get the benefit of the doubt in terms of, you might miss 1 or 2 meetings, holidays came, you might have been away for Thanksgiving, or you might have been away for Christmas. But if you start looking back and all of a sudden you start seeing out of 6 or 7 meetings you've only been to 2, then we know that those are conversations that need to happen. So that's how that process works out. And again, it's usually not even a matter of the first reaction is to get rid of somebody, it's to have a conversation to find out if this is something that is sustainable. I'll even say, it's like we've had conversations in the past, if somebody's missed a few meetings, sometimes they don't even realize they missed a few meetings, and that's okay. And then the conversation becomes, can they continue? Is this something they can continue and attend? Or if it's something, that's not gonna be, able to do. But again, a conversation that's gonna be had with that. Also, just in terms of that, the last piece, especially as we're going to season, in terms of making sure that we're, that we have applications are going out, people potentially looking at new members. One of the things we'll be looking at is hopefully, Dante and I will be talking, we're gonna try and see if we can do a training or at least we've done this for a few years, a learn about your community board. So what it does is it kind of outlines what the board is, what the function of the board is, some of the responsibilities, some of the expectations and everything as well. I find it's usually good for people who are prospectively looking at joining boards, and sometimes I've had board members say, hey, I didn't know we did that. And just from that as a refresher, it's usually a pretty good activity for us to do. So we're looking at that in terms of whether we can get that on the calendar. Hopefully we can get that so we can implement it before the application to do as well, so that way people can kind of have that in the back as they're filling out applications. That is, one last thing. I just want to throw this out. So part of my responsibilities as chair is to go to the borough board. I got you. Is to go to the borough board. One of the presentations that happened at the borough board was from the Parks Department. So they are revamping the way they do tree planting. So part of that process has been they've taken requests for trees. So those go into parks, and parks processes them however they do that. They're looking at going to a different model. They're removing that request functionality, so people can't just request trees. They are going to another model where they are actually going to be going on a district by district basis, where they said it's going to be a 9-year cycle where they go in there and they're replacing trees and doing whatever they do. So like every 3 years or so, they should be in a district. Now, with that being said, there are still questions around the way that happens, because they're talking about tree replacement, they're talking about tree additions, they're talking about a number of other things that happen with that. And one of the things that I did request for them was to hopefully come to our board, because I think that the community engagement piece locally is important for that. I know we've had previous conversations where I think they were going to be putting trees around Evans Field, and we have a number of residents who are saying, hey, well, how does that affect safety? How does that, expect the treescape, roots, how does that get managed? You know, as a property owner, do you all of a sudden wanna wake up and find a tree where you didn't ask for one? So we feel that there are conversations that need to happen on the local level, so we invited the, Department of Parks to come and have that conversation here with us. So I'm hoping that they'll be over here in the next couple of months. Dante will talk about that and we'll reach back out to them in terms of that as well. So I just wanted to give that information for the board in terms of some of the conversations that I had. That's all I had, informational purposes, I will take questions. Okay, hold on, actually, let me go to the list, I'll go on the list though. Yep, I got you.
I have a question.
All right, did we get the exec first? I'll take the question right after that. Okay, I'm sorry, Debbie, go ahead.
Oh, I'm up?
Yeah.
Okay, so my question, well, it's not a question. It pertains to the members that are appointed to the board, because I think the conversation should be had with the council members and the borough presidents as well, because they do appoint members. And, you know, so I don't know if that's happening, but they should know what's going on with these people that they are appointed.
Well, here's the thing, just as a quick note. What ends up happening is typically Borough Hall will ask for an attendance report. I think that usually comes around
Very
now.
soon.
About now, because they do want to know that information.
Yeah.
So the borough president is the final appointer, so the council members make recommendations. They make recommendations on behalf of each of their respective districts, but they get appointed by the borough president. But that's part of what happens. So if you are going for renewal, one of the things that will come up is, okay, well, listen, what's the attendance look like? I will say up front, and I want to make sure I'm upfront about that, the board has no input on any of that. We have no input on any of that other than to provide the attendance report. So I, you know, the district manager or nor myself have the ability to go in Borough Hall and say, yes, that's a good person or that's a bad person or whatever else. We are not included in any of that process at all. We're not involved in the application process. We don't receive, and just as a quick PSA with that, please do not give applications to the board office. All applications go to Borough Hall. So you can either do that electronically or on paper, but they all go to Borough Hall. We do not touch them. We do not handle them. But yeah, but to your point, I mean, that's a process we're not a part of. But to the point of attendance, yeah, we give that information.
I understand that, but if someone hasn't attended any meetings, I mean, that's a discussion to have right away. I mean, it's not at the end of the road.
It's not even, well, here's the thing. What
How
happens
does the
is,
business get done if
well,
that's not
well, no, but that's where the board, there's two ways you get off the board. Either the borough president doesn't reappoint you, the borough president can take you off, or we go through our process and we write you up and we submit charges. So right now, we are in the submitting charges kind of phase with that. So, and there are a number of people, unfortunately, who are on that list, they haven't been there. And that's the outreach that's being done right now in terms of figuring out, you haven't been here.
Because you don't have a housing committee, so, you know, it's
You don't have a
lot
housing
that's out-
committee because they're boycotting.
And
It's
they're-
not because they don't want to
Thank you, Ms.
attend.
Boyd. And there are members of the board, there are some chronic attendees that are part of that issue. So part of it is when we resolve that resolves some of that as well. And we go ahead and we do what we need to do with that.
You don't get
Thank you
nine
very
boards, you don't get 9 committee members
Ms.
not to
Watson,
show
go
up.
ahead.
Yeah, actually Debbie started my thing. My other thing was that when you talk about learning about our community board, maybe I think that should be part of the mandate to be a board member, so that you know you're getting into. Don't wait until their name and then have the training and they still don't come, because I mean, since I've been here, I've taken all the training. A majority of the time, I don't even see 30% of the board or the current board members coming. So look at it and see if in the past that did not work. Put some thing in place where if you want to be on the board, you can't be on the board unless you know where you're coming to. Then you will have people boycotting. You will have people putting people on committees that they don't know nothing about and just don't turn up. And you got to bring something that you know.
Well, a little bit to that point, and this probably some conversation we could maybe have around there. Part of the thing is there's not too much we can mandate in terms of somebody getting on the board. Yeah, so I mean, we do it as a service, so hopefully people have a better idea what's going on and what the expectation is. But I mean, we've had board members who never came to one of those, but they get on the board. The only thing we can do is
board members who never come to meeting either, down the board.
well, yeah. But I mean, but what we try and do is at the very least, make that something that's available. And one of the things we're looking at, and that's a longer conversation about what kind of training do we put. I fully get and understand that I've got everybody out here along on a Tuesday night, and then we do the same thing on another Tuesday night for the board. And then to say that I'm gonna add extra calendar items, I know it gets tough, especially because I know board members are busy. We're trying to weigh how we do this. Additionally, Borough Hall frequently does a lot of trainings as well, so one of the things we try not to do is duplicate something they're doing. So some of the conversations we're having is, okay, well, listen, if we know Borough Hall's doing something, we're not gonna do it. We're gonna send a notice to board members, this is how you find out what's going on. Additionally, the Civic Engagement Commission does a lot of trainings as well.
Yes.
So we try and provide those resources. Dante and the team have been very good. They're usually very good about that. They're very good about that. About sending that information out so people have that. So those resources are out there. But if there are gaps in between that where we can fill that as a board, please let us know. We'll try and do that as well. And we're gonna try and do stuff that's more local, community-based stuff where it's like, okay, this is something specific to C9. But yeah, we're trying to address those issues. I'm sorry for the long answer to that. We'll see, Ethan, you have a question as well? We'll take you, Mr. Rosenberger, and then Ms. Boyd, I see you as well. Go ahead.
Okay. I mean, regarding the attendance, I mean, if I recall correctly, in December 2023, we didn't get quorum either. That was in, I think, the community center. We didn't have quorum then either. So I mean, I think it would be good to track attendance, maybe year on year, so we know if we're, trending in a good direction or not. Especially since we're making a few moves to, kind of improve the structure of some of the meetings, like with time estimations and with like old timer, so that people, can cooperate and have the, less meetings where we're there at like 10 p.m. or later. Because I mean, someone can join and they can, start off pretty enthusiastic, and you can like wear off pretty quickly if you're there at 11 p.m.
Yes.
4 months in a row.
Yes.
Right.
I
So
think that's a big factor.
So I think improving those is just something I've been trying to help us, get to, and I think that's been helping things in some ways when it comes to expectations about how a meeting's gonna go. Are you gonna be there for 3 hours or less, etc. And apart from that, I think it would be helpful if the board started to notify people in ways that are a bit more visible than email, because a lot of people's inboxes are full or getting full and very busy. And if we rely on email, I think there are going to be situations where people struggle to remember meetings or like track what they've gotten. And someone might see a calendar event or an email and reply and respond to it and forget about it the next week. And I think just having a better system of letting people know what is happening and what they should attend and what they should know about is something that I'm also like, trying to get over the finish line. So, I mean, maybe if we track attendance overall, and just maybe like, something as simple as putting a number of attendees into a sheet once a month so that we know who came and see if we as a board are getting better at making meetings better to come to. That might be, good to look at.
Right. So to the last point, some of what we're trying to do, and this has been a long-term project that we're working on. Let me start with the December meeting. We are historically bad with the December meeting, and obviously we know the reason why. It's the holiday season, and November, December was bad because that's the holiday season. And as a matter of fact, usually I start the year saying we're going to be in a funky way for like the next few months. It's September, October, November, December. We're usually shifting schedules, and it changes a lot. So we try to set that expectation about that. But now there's a certain point where it's like, I get it, but that's, one of those things we're trying to communicate that where it's like, but we still need people to come.
Yeah, if I could just bounce off that, like the expectation could work against us. If we tell people, it's gonna be funky in November, December, people are gonna be like, probably not gonna have quorum, and they might not even come to contribute to quorum because they expect it to be bad.
Well, but that's still, but here's the thing, but that's what we want to set an expectation where it's like, no, it's a funky schedule. I warn you in advance, but the expectation doesn't change. The meeting is the meeting. It's charter mandated. Here's the thing. The city can very easily say, listen, you only have to meet 8 out of 10 months or something like that. No, the city charter says we meet 10 months. So November and December are part of those 10 months, are part of the board year. And I say that to set the expectation. I say that to kind of set the expectation or put it out in the air where it's like, watch out, you're gonna see changing dates and everything like that. But the expectation is always that. We expect you to come, and we want to set that, you would come, one, because it's the commitment that you've made personally, and two, out of respect for all the rest of the board and the community. Because when you don't show, it shows. And we get less numbers, and we don't get the perspectives, and we don't get to do the meeting, we don't complete the agenda the way we want to. I do want to also highlight, I mean, I think in terms of that, I want to thank the district office, because one of the things we've tried to move to is, I know people have said it before, if it's an email, I may see it this week, but I may not see it next week. So one of the things they've done, is that they send these things as calendar invites. So they become real. So even if you haven't responded, and that's another issue actually to say, hopefully it pops up on your calendar.
Right.
Now, Dante, as a matter of fact, this is just another conversation I've had sidebar with another member, because I asked the question. With a lot of systems, automatically, even if you haven't accepted, it shows up on your calendar. I understand there might be systems like if you're on Apple, the calendar item shows up, but you have to proactively say, let me download the ICS and upload it to my calendar. So that's some wrinkles in there that we'll need to go through, and we may need to have some conversations about that. But as a board and at the district office, we're trying to find ways to get better about making sure we're communicating these things. Additionally, I want to say that, and the additional I want to say is that we've done a lot of changes on the website where it's like you can go on the website at any given time, they upload the dates in advance. So even if as a board member, the expectation is go to the website. So even if you didn't get an email, didn't hear anything, you know there's something going on. You know there's going to be a committee meeting, there's going to be a general board meeting. Go in there, you can download those two. Again, you can download those two, even if you didn't get an email, get that on your calendar. So perhaps that's another communication we have with board members where it's like, if you haven't seen anything, it's weird. Go on the website, download the meetings, and they'll pop up on your thing. So at the very least, we'll happen. And yeah, I mean, these are hard conversations. Unfortunately, they've been consistent conversations, but we're trying to find ways to get better. But ultimately, it's going to come down to this: we need to be respectful of each other and each other's time in this community. We need to just come. Life happens, yeah, but life can't happen 8-9 times a year. If that's the situation, then maybe life is telling you something that you need to do something other than be on a committee board. I'm sorry, I went long on that. Mr. Rosenberger.
2 questions. One, whose responsibility is it to choose members? Do you have a committee and the chair?
Right, per the bylaws, the initial responsibility for choosing committees is on the chair. So the chair selects the members of the bylaws committee. I'm sorry, it's long now. Yeah, the members, the board chair selects the members of the committees. Part of the bylaws dictates that first what I do is I poll members. So I ask them what the preferences are. Right. And I'll say this, we've been trying to keep really good data about that, where it's like, I'll say this, 80 to 90% of board members usually get their first preferences, the first top 2. And usually, I think on very rare occasions we go down to the 3rd level. And usually, I mean, if I want to say that in the past few years, most of the time somebody got their 3rd level, so we ask them to be a chair of a committee. So that's usually when they get the 3rd level. Now, with that being said, here's what happens at the end. We got board members who, guess what? Don't respond. When you don't respond, you get whatever committees you get, you're filling in gaps. And perhaps that's part of the problem, because that's maybe one of the signals or off the bat, they're not responding. So if they're not responding to that, they're not responding to calendar invites, they're not responding to emails, they're not doing that, and that ends up showing up in that as well. That's a conversation, how do we address that now? So it's like, maybe that's what we have to do from now on. If we find that you're not even responding to that, maybe that's a sign where it's like, we need to have a conversation. You didn't respond. Let me know if you're with this program or if you're not.
Who do you choose that on the application to become a board member?
No. That's a separate communication, usually comes in the summer.
Maybe you should put it on the board, on the application, so. That's another indication that you're serious.
Well, here's the thing. The reason why it's not on the application is because when you go to the different boards, everybody has a different setup for their committees. So that's what happens when it gets to the board level, and that's when we make that communication. Reach out and say, listen, what's going on. And I'll say this, just to make sure there's clarity around that. Typically, that's not the first question we ask new board members either. Those first couple of months when board members get here, we just encourage them, go check out meetings. Because they have no idea what land use does or any idea what housing does, so it's not fair to, I haven't seen it as fair to say, which committee you want to join. I just usually say, listen, for the first couple of months, you're not obligated, just go around and just try and see what meetings, a couple of meetings, get a feel of what's going on, and see what your interest is, and in the summer we'll come back and we'll ask what's going on with that. But I want to thank you for for those suggestions, and please, as we're going forward, if there are additional suggestions on what we can do to improve that situation. And this is good because I don't want the conversation to be about how we can kick people off. I want the conversation to be about how we get people to just say, listen, I'm gonna commit, follow up on the commitment and come. Okay. All right, was that? Okay.
One small question, very short. Do city council members recommend people out of the group that applied to run the board? Or do they have their own people they are submitting as all, like, extras for consideration?
My understanding, okay, I don't want to misspeak. Everybody applies, my understanding is everybody has to apply through the borough president's office. But the council member may say, these 3 or 4 people are my recommendations. So,
But we wouldn't know.
I'm sorry?
We wouldn't really know when they do that.
We wouldn't know until they
Right,
get appointed. And then they'll say
Then they would say.
specifically, it's like this person was appointed out of the 35th, this person was appointed by recommendation of the 40th or the 41st. So,
Yeah, that's good.
okay. Ms. Boyd.
Real quick.
First, I have a question. Will the training that you plan on doing include any of the bylaws, open meetings, or the laws that govern a community board? Because you had chairs that take votes via email. You have all kinds of stuff that are violations, and a lot of the chairs come in, don't know the open meetings law, and then I stand up and have to yell, and then I'm the bad guy. So I'm wondering if the training is going to include Robert's Rules of Order, what's how you govern yourselves, open meetings law, CB9 bylaws, and the city charter. Those are the 4 primary laws that govern the community board. Will the training cover any of that to ensure that people know how to run a committee and how a committee should be run?
That'll be something we look over, and I say that to say, because some of those trainings are covered by other agencies, entities. CEC does some of that, Borough Hall does some of that we do on our side, so part of it's gonna be the conversation we have to look at seeing who's doing what. Again, to the point where I don't wanna necessarily overtax people by saying there's 19 trainings, in addition to everything you have to do. But there may be some points where we might want to reiterate some of the points brought in other trainings. So that'll be a conversation in terms of what the training looks like and what's being included.
And the other question that I have is, while you talking about people who do not show up and people who might protest, has anyone bothered to ask the people why they're not showing up? Has there been any conversation? Because I know I spoke to the board members on the housing committee, the members of that committee, and they talked to me about what their concerns were. Did anybody bother to sit there and reach out to them and say, hey, you haven't been showing up? Is there a reason why you haven't been showing up? So while we're jumping to conclusions that it could be a 3-hour meeting, and people have complained about not showing up at committees because of 3-hour meetings, has anybody bothered to sit there and do that? Before you decide to check and remove and send threatening letters, has anybody bothered to talk to the members and say, hey, why haven't you showed up? The committee that has 10 members and only 9 are absent, that is a committee that's in crisis. That's not just because.
But did they bring it to the
But wait, excuse me, it's not, I'm not talking about them bringing it to anybody, I'm talking about the responsibility of this executive committee to reach out to them and say, hey, we got a committee that's not functioning, the committee is a very important committee to this community board. Why aren't you showing up? What are your concerns? What are your issues? Let's try to solve that. And that's just not just for the housing committee, but also people who are on the general board. Are we reaching out to them and asking them? I mean, I was surprised, Rabbi Berman, he resigned, I'm shocked. I would like to know why. He's been on this board, what, for 10 years? I would like to know why he's removing himself. Does he have an issue? Is it just because he no longer wants to, or is it something that's happening at the community board level that you would take a board member who has really dedicated himself to this community board that represents his constituents and who's now no longer here? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, very, very, very quickly. The first, and I think I said this before, the first reaction is not kick people off the board. What we start doing, and Dante and the team are probably tired of it, is that when we start seeing patterns, I ask them, have you sent an email? Have you made a phone call? Have you seen if somebody's okay? So that's the first thing we do.
So did you do that for the board members?
Let me
Did you
finish.
do that for the committee
Ms.
members?
Boyd,
I'm just asking, has he done
If I
that?
can finish, then perhaps I will answer
I
your
think
question.
he mentioned that in his.
But he
If I
said he
can-
hasn't done it, so
Okay,
I'm
but
just
if I can finish, then perhaps I will
clarifying
answer the
that.
question. So the point being, the chair resigned. I called one meeting, didn't see anybody. It's November. We don't say anything.
There were people here in November.
No,
September
actually,
they were
no, it
here.
wasn't November.
It
I
was
called one meeting in December. No one was there. One person
No,
showed.
that's not
Ms. Boyd, Ms. Boyd, Ms.
September, there was nine,
Ms. Boyd.
I was here.
Okay,
There were 9 members here.
Ms. Boyd.
Okay, oh boy.
Yeah.
Are you gonna
Anyway.
stand there and lie and say in September
Ms. Boyd,
that
Ms.
the
Boyd,
housing committee
let
did
me
not come
finish.
here?
Let me finish. I was not the chair, so I don't know who came here specifically in September.
Well, I was sitting
I
here.
saw, okay, thank you. And I saw who came in October, low attendance. I don't believe they had one in November. The chair had already resigned by that point. I convened the meeting in December, one member shows up. Okay, it's December. I convene the meeting in January, one member shows up. Okay, now I understand we have a problem.
Did anybody reach out to any of those members and ask them what the problem was?
You know, I only identified a problem after I tried to chair 2 meetings and nobody showed up.
Okay,
So
well,
that
if
is the
nobody's showing up.
So that is the conversation that I'm having with
But
the
right
district
now, you're
manager.
talking about
And that is
dismantling
the conversation
everybody.
I'm having with the district manager in terms of having the conversations about what do we need to do to revitalize the committee. So
And
obviously,
your
there
suggestion
are
was to
some people.
remove everybody, and you haven't even inquired
Well, what I'm
why
saying
they're
is,
going, why they're not
no,
there.
and there are some who are already known issues in terms of, guess what, it's not just the committee they haven't shown up to, they haven't shown up to anything. So those conversations have been had, and those are what we're doing. And then there's another set of people where it's like, okay, let's figure out what is going on and if they're able to continue. But that is the process we do,
Well, he said he hasn't done the process.
because we haven't started the process yet, because we just said, by the way, we didn't have a second committee meeting. So, in other words, just to put the button on this, absolutely, that is the process. Again, we don't begin on the getting people off of a committee, but we are gonna begin the process of, we need to do something to get this committee revitalized. And I wanna say something very quickly, just in terms of, I think that one of the things I always try and reiterate is, and I think at all committee meetings, if you have a question, problem, issue, whatever else, I am available to either one, talk to the chair, or talk to the district manager, or talk to me, or you are always free to come in. So if there is a problem and an issue, I say, come in there, come and let's have a conversation. I don't know there's a problem and issue if you don't come and talk to me about it. Especially after I think there are a number of people that I've known for years who are on some of these committees, so if there's an issue, I think that it's a little bit on the funny side where it's like, okay, well, this is the time, I'm not gonna say a word. Actually, it's kind of funny because some of the people I think we're talking about, these are people who would definitely, if they saw me in the street, would have a conversation with me. So I don't understand why it's a silent boycott at this point. But that's neither here nor there. The district manager and I are going to have the conversation, we're going to make the communications, and we're going to do what we can in the interest of making sure this committee is viable and moves. All right, thank you very much. All right, that was all I had for that. And we are now going to try and go very quickly into setting item number 5. All right, so as we had no quorum, there are a number of items that are going to carry over. All right, we are going to call to order. This is the public session. Call to order. Rules of order. Dante, do we have any presentations for the month?
Unscheduled right now.
Who are we anticipating?
Well, I was gonna wait to see if DSNY responds.
All right. My only concern is, it's gonna be a tight agenda because we gotta double up a little bit. We gotta double up a little bit, and I
Well, if
think
we
that.
don't have any information, we don't know what to,
No, understood, but what I'm saying is, and as I say, we're doubling up this month, I don't know what February looks like either. I think it might be good to just say, listen, let's just get them on here and just have a town hall. Just have a town hall, let them come, and they can address, and we'll give them all the time they need to present. And I think we publicize this and make sure that the community is able to come and ask the questions they need to ask and have answers. All right, so I'm gonna ask if we can defer on that one. I think, Dante, let's talk about that, what works in February, see if we can get that done. So we can- All right, so let's hold off on the on presentations. Applications, SLA applications. Okay, so we have 887 Nost. That was a new application, a new full application. Sorry? Yeah, and then we have, no, Fiona's.
Didn't Fiona's pass already?
Yeah, Fiona's already passed.
Okay, let's talk to it.
Fiona's is already passed. Then after that, we have Pearlie's wash tub. So that's a renewal application, that was approved.
When you say doubling up, is it because we didn't have form the last meeting?
Yep. So what ends up happening is, again, just for the record, whatever we didn't do is tabled automatically. So those items that aren't, need to be addressed this month are gonna come out. So that's what I'm saying, there's probably a couple of extra items on this agenda for this month. But, okay, so Pearlie's wash tub is the second SLA. After that, we're gonna have the public comment period. After public comment, we're gonna have acknowledgements. After acknowledgements, we are going to go into the business session, correct? We are going to have roll call. We are going to have the minutes, the approval of the minutes for November and December.
November,
Yes.
question, I have a question. Were they, did you have like a special, I saw there was a special meeting held in December, do you have, and was that held?
Thank you. Yes, we'll have minutes for that as well.
It should be approved too, right?
Yes. So minutes for November December.
2 meetings.
and the special meeting, and January special meeting.
It was in January?
Correct.
Oh, sorry,
January.
sorry. Oh, I was on my boat, sorry. I know, sorry. I wasn't here. No, January 9th, that's it.
Okay,
Right.
all right.
It does feel like.
Okay, so after we have that, then we're gonna have committee reports.
Yeah, the budget disapproval.
Yeah. Madam Treasurer, do you wanna give a treasurer's report for this month?
Yeah, we skipped it this month.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so we'll have the district manager's report. We'll have the chair's report. Then we'll go to voting items. So we are going to have SLA applications. SLA applications for 887 Nost and Pearlie's. We will have the bike lane safety plan. Yes. Youth Education Career Day. We'll have board member removals. I'm sorry, let me just check. I think that was, no, we just have those. All right, for the chairs, were there any other action items that I did not mention? Okay, and we captured all the old business. All right, then after that, we have new business. And then we have adjournment. Okay.
Good.
That's it. Is that all we have? Okay. All right, so at this time, I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as stated. Second. Moved by Madam Secretary, seconded by First Vice Chair. All right, moved and seconded. Any questions, any readiness? Hearing none, all those in, well, actually, Madam Secretary, please just call the roll, just to make sure we have for the record.
Okay, Fred Baptiste,
Present.
Ethan Narva, yep. Felice Robertson,
Present.
Linda Watson Lord, that's me. Mayane Lagote,
Here.
Nicholas Almanar, absent. Bini Rosenberg, present. Sir, we've got 4, 7 of the 6 of the 7,
Okay, hearing of one.
and 3.
Okay, so we have a question on the floor, the approval. Hearing no one readiness, can we adopt by, do I have any objection to adopting by common consent?
No, sir.
Hearing no objection, it's adopted by common consent. Please note for the record, Madam Secretary. Okay, I did have one last item. Actually, here's what I would like to do. Dante, in terms of the letters that have gone out for attendance issues, are there any new members who are on? That have been identified in terms of attendance issues?
Give me a solid sec.
Alright, wait, Dante, did they say something?
How many
Yes.
members are currently on the board?
49.
We're
49.
45, 44 right now.
Oh, you mean when you add those, cause I
And
didn't add
that's
those.
without
Yeah.
these,
45.
without the 5 that,
Correct, we're about 45, 44,
Including.
including the ones that just resigned.
So,
So with those resignations, we're about that.
hold on. We
It
started
was 48
December
before
with
we got
49, cause it's
No.
only.
Because rescue after the year, that's right,
It's
it's 49 or
40.
40.
Right, so now from 49, we've got
And that's 5.
5 and 2, Barrington, and Ellington, that's 7.
that's 7.
No. Barrington, hold on.
We voted
Like, who left for?
They're not.
They're not removed yet,
They're
they
not
just send the letters. Okay,
Yeah,
cool,
got letters.
alright.
Right.
I got the division, but I just wanted to know if it was 7 or not.
So I want the
Left
district
early.
manager.
Yes.
Yeah, some of them, and this again goes to the point, some of them have received letters,
Yeah.
some members have just left. Some members have just left.
Now, I just want to add something. We're having this meeting at
I'll be the cat. I'll be the
Empire Boulevard, right?
That's what happened.
Now,
Alright,
Yeah, Dante, let's do this first. I don't want to embarrass anybody. Do you have board members who have attendance issues?
see, that person resigned. That person said their schedule would work
that
now.
person?
This person hadn't shown up, but then they showed up to the special meeting.
I don't know.
So they showed up.
So they showed up, so I guess they're restarting the clock.
The whole clock hasn't restarted because remember it's greater than 50%.
Uh,
If they're more than 50%,
okay.
that's a conversation we should have.
Three. I think that they're here yet. That person resigned. There is a couple here.
Okay. All right. So at this point, this is what I would like to do.
Before you do anything, I have something to say. In my minutes, just now, Dante said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we had their names. Right? Max, Rabbi, Rafaela, Dione, Leon, whatever, and yourself. Right? We had letters sent to Barrington and to Ellington. Now, he's reading and he's saying this person, who is the, how
These are
could
next
I?
up. These are next up. So we didn't have a quorum at the last meeting. So we weren't able to remove any of the Barrington and
Right,
Riviera
that
Ellington.
part I
So
understand.
some of
but
those
the
other
5
people just resigned.
So these
so-
totally resigned the 5.
Some, yes.
Good. Okay, so if you say who had letters not come, and you're gonna pass the 2 that I thought that I am good at mathematics. When you went past this person should only be this person, whether it's Barrington or Ellington, and that person, but when you went to 3 and 4, that's what had me mixed up on the numbers of how I coordinated this with my minutes.
Is those resignations effective immediately?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a 5.
So 5?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
those were all effective.
All right, continue.
Okay.
So that's 7.
So
Yeah.
what I'm looking for is this. So and you have a couple more who have fallen into the danger zone, I guess.
Yes, you should.
All right. So here's what I would like to do. I would like for the executive committee to entertain a motion to send letters that charges will be submitted for the 2 that have fallen. And
Have you made any phone calls to them?
this is what happens. We
Them?
observe.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, here's part of the thing. When we do this, it enables us to have the conversations because
Sent on December 2nd, the 4th, the 16th, and the 19th. And called those individuals, and they never picked.
no, for the new ones that you have.
They got a letter too. These individuals
Okay,
got
they
a
don't have
letter as
letters.
well. Oh, yes.
Okay, so everybody else is clear.
These individuals got a letter stating that their attendance is in question.
Okay.
And they'll be able to come to the executive, I think, not this month, but next month, to explain why they were unable, but with the expectation that they would call the office and let us know that they will be fine to be able to move forward.
All right, and to be clear, what we want to do is make sure we preserve our ability to take care of whatever we need to take care of. But again, the goal is not to kick people off, the goal is to have a conversation. Now, if they don't respond to emails, no call, no anything like that, then we have to do what we have to do. Okay? So, but all I wanna make sure is that the board is able to do this. So, but everybody's covered currently, correct? Everybody's covered with a letter currently?
Yes.
Okay, so we
Yes,
don't need,
absolutely.
so then we don't need anything else, we're fine. Okay, all right, so with that, all right, is there any other business? We have nothing on the table from, so there's no other, nothing on the table. Is there any new business for the executive this time? Okay, hearing none, all right, we have a relatively full agenda. We're continuing to make phone calls. We're continuing to make phone calls, so we're gonna continue calling people who have letters out. We're gonna call members of the housing committee as well, so we're gonna be in communication with the exec in terms of what it looks like and what next steps are potentially gonna be with that. The goal is definitely to revitalize the housing. I wanna thank everyone for all the committees, and I just wanna remind all the committees, as you're going through your,
I have something to say. You know?
sure, committees, as you're going through your work, please make sure, don't go on with plans and don't send stuff out. Kind of, at least come to the exec, let the district manager and I know what's going on. Some letters are just easy to send out, some letters might be something that might need a board approval, or at the very least, the executive committee approval too, so please just make sure that we're sending those communications out so we can look and we're consistent, and we know what's going on, and we can flag anything if there's any questions that need to be addressed first. That's all I had.
Yes. And in this way, we run into meetings, especially at 400 in Par, we know that we gotta get out at 10 o'clock. And I think it's unfair that we got a full agenda, and then committee members come to give big examples and speaking about their committee. If we have the Dante and the whole and our office, they send out everybody's reports and submitted them. Read the report. Don't let us have to be coming here and the chairman has to get up to be singing something that we got. If we gotta get up at 10 o'clock and we do some stuff, that's why we always late. We gotta move it along.
Yeah, just to set an expectation in terms of that. I will have a written chairperson's report. I'm not going to do that.
Ask them to speak, right?
It's going to be there. I have
Unless
no
it's
action
something to
items,
be
just a
voted
couple of
on?
items really
Yes.
quickly. 2 minutes or less. I'm just gonna try and get
Are
it
you
done.
gonna have those written reports for the public?
It'll be part of the package.
Did we come?
And then perhaps that would be a way of expediting things to,
Yes.
speed it along, we want it to be there for 10 o'clock
I'll
or
also say,
9:30.
since we brought timers in, we haven't had.
So
a
the
meeting that
faster
will be
you all
on
get
time.
all your stuff into the board
Yes.
office, we can put it all
December
up on the
19th.
website. We don't have to wait around because it is exhausting when you have one committee that hasn't done something.
Right.
And you have to go in and change it and go in and change it. So if you get it to us in advance, you can just go on.
Look, December 19th, you learn a whole conversation on the committee report saying that's something that, and then it comes back, when we go to vote on it, still conversation again.
Right. Well, here's the thing, and let me say, I'm glad you said that.
Transportation.
Let me say this very
We
quickly.
send it out to us, so I know Ethan, you writes a lot, and now you gotta read it in small piece, but when it comes here, I got my.
Let me say something very quickly too. One of the things that I shy away from saying, is that I'm making a commitment where it's like, we are never gonna have a long meeting. That's not possible. Some things are just waiting, and some things are just gonna have to be, we have to slog through it, and we just have to have the conversations.
Right.
But the best things we can do is make sure we're prepared, and, if we read in advance, hopefully we're not asking as many questions. And that goes to the way we prepare our reports, and that we're answering the questions in advance, and that we've set the table in terms of what the conversation was.
You should also start the meeting on time. Every time you guys start, you start at 7:15, 7:20.
Not really, no, I think.
Go look at the time.
Well,
Even today.
But today, that is a different.
Well, I mean,
That's a good thing.
with regards to my committee,
and some of us decide not to boycott and take 4 or 5 minutes for us to speak anyway. In any case, we have reached the end of our agenda. We have reached the end of our agenda. Thank you very much, everyone. Madam Secretary, please record. We are adjourning. Time is now 9:34 p.m.
Okay, not bad time.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Me first.
Dante.
Ms. Timothy. I'm sorry.
I just needed to know if there's a tracking system for attendance.
There is.
Yeah,